Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, March 25th Board of Select Persons meeting. Please join me in the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we currently do not have the March 17th meeting minutes. Those will be reviewed for the next week's meeting. And I have not seen any warrants come through yet, so we will have to accept those at next week's meetings as well. And would somebody read the announcements, please?
The Select Board will hold a special town meeting on Monday, March 31st at 7 p.m. with the Select Board meeting to follow if time permits. The warrant is available on the town website and at the municipal building. The Planning Board will meet on Wednesday, April 2nd at 7 p.m. The next semi-sesquicentennial meeting for the town's 250th anniversary will be Wednesday, April 9th at 6 p.m. at the fire station. They are currently looking for groups such as the Scouts, churches, etc. to participate in the event. Please reach out to Lisa LePage for more information or please attend the next meeting. You may reach Lisa at 651-1594 or llepage6@yahoo.com. Town reports are now available at the municipal building and on the town website. The appeals board has 2 vacant seats to fill. Please reach out to the Select Board admin if interested at 793-4475. And the planning board has an open seat to fill. Please contact the Select Board admin if interested, 793-4475. And as a reminder, if you're speaking at any meeting, please go to the microphone so everyone will be able to hear. As part of the hearing, a citizens policy, no personal attacks on any individual or firm, including town employees, town officials, or members of the public, will be tolerated during any meetings. Please direct concerns about individual employees or town officials to the chairman of the Board of Select Persons outside the public meeting, and please stay current with town information by visiting www.limerickme.org.
Thank you. Next, we have department reports, and we have Julie Giles, the treasurer.
Good evening, everybody, and I appreciate you letting me sit over here because I know my back won't stand that long. I have some information for you folks. I apologize that I was not at your last meeting due to doctor's orders, and just wanted to know if I had known, my nurse would have brought me back. But we have a correspondence from our auditors. It came in on Monday. Karen, a lady that's supposed to be working with Judy and myself, and any selectman that wants to be will not be here. She's going to try. She's has some medical conditions to take care of. She's trying to take care of, and then we'll follow up when she can be here, as I stated. In past, there was some information that so far I don't know that it's been covered. The matter of fact of the bonding of the town. Currently, there is 9 people that are not bonded that should be by state law. That is GA, the road commissioner, everybody in the transfer station, anybody that works with checks at the fire department, so I don't know who gets in the cash revenues for the medical services, and also where you have Stan working as doing the liaison for the selectmen in the foreclosed property, sale of foreclosed property. He has to be bonded for that as well. So that would take care of everybody that should be bonded. If anybody is interested, I have a detailed the revenues, expense report, and the GL. Also available, the selectmen have all been sent these reports. The trial balance is there. I was under the impression that people were believing that the trial balance was not completed. It is, as far as the information I have received from the auditors as of this date, which is waiting on Karen to come with that, and don't know the status of it. But the trial balance comes out, it's balanced as of right now. Your revenues right now, your cash is $3.113 million. The investments are $17,173.05, and your borrowing power right now is $1.894 million. That is all of the money as of today. I would have brought the reports in for as of today, but when I went to look at them, I have 36 journals that have not been posted. I couldn't post them today because I do not have the backup information. This is, my deputy put these in and hadn't had a chance to see her. I just saw it today that they're not posted. Anybody has any question about them, I have them here, but there are 36 of them. It's been asked about the the sale of the tax-acquired property. To show that what Judy, as a tax collector, and I, as your treasurer, are mandated by the state to follow, that's 3/4 of our journal entries, what we have to follow by the state laws. And there is a tax line breakdown of it from when the minute that they are assessed to when the tax collector gets them, and then when the treasurer gets them right up to the foreclosure. And after the foreclosure, the municipal officers hold and are responsible from that point on. That is not up to the tax collector or the treasurer. And it's specifically stated in our guidelines. So that would be coming where their liaison would be covering it. And it would come back to when we have to receipt the money to prove where it would go and to be balanced. I know there's been some discrepancies on that, but this is right out of our manual. And I have some extras if anybody is interested. As I said, I have the reports that you're all, if anybody is interested in them. And if you want them emailed to you, that's fine. I can do that as well. I'm not going to get into great detail on a lot of stuff tonight because you have a very busy agenda, and I respect the people that don't want to be here all night. But I do have to ask the selectmen, you had me look into getting so that a selectman could be on a checking account. I need you to put that to a vote, and also put it in writing so that I can have it on record. Because the majority of the towns in this area do not do that. It goes as far as a town administrator or as a manager. But when I contacted the lawyers, I was told that if I got it in writing, we could do it. So if you have passed that and vote on it, then I attach it to the paperwork, which I have already for Brady's approached me, and I have it all ready to fill out. But just to CYA, the town, the public, and everybody, just put it in, that it was voted on to do. And then you have a proper paper trail. I know Judy and I both go with, everybody thinks we have too much paper, but previous auditors have stated to the fact that we leave the best breadcrumb trail in the state of Maine because we can find what anybody needs. It may take us a little bit, but it is there. I am not going to get into much else, but I also would like to bring to the attention of the selectmen that going through the paperwork when I came back from the hospital, I came across that we have parking violations that go back to last year that are still outstanding. And also I found in the process of filing some files, to my knowledge, executive sessions cannot be put in writing or in a folder. And this one not pertaining to anybody here, but it goes back to 2018 and should not be anything on file for it. But if you would give me some guidelines on how soon you want the people bonded so we can get that squared away with the state. And if anybody has any questions, I am here for you. And also, any time that you have a question, please do not hesitate to come to my office or give me a call if I'm not happen to be here. I have 1 more month to recover, and I am working at home half the day because sitting in the chairs, it bothers my back. As I stated at the meeting that I came to 2 weeks ago or whenever, I broke the #1 disc in my back. That's your biggest disc near your tailbone. And they've told me 3 months. I should have been out, and I got permission to come in to be a half a day so that I was here to construct my work and maintain the ethics that I have to do my job and to do it as accurately as I can. But I can only do as much as the auditors do with us. If people would go back and look at their town reports or the reports from the auditors that go back to 23, there's articles in there that saying that materials were not coded right and working under the management law, a letter, and I can get anybody a copy of it if they would like. I had it at home and it's on my counter, and I'm sorry to say I neglected to grab that pile of paper. As you can see, I've got quite a stack over here, but unfortunately I forgot that one. And just for public knowledge, Maine Municipal Tax Collectors and Treasurers Association has a standard of ethics and professional conduct. I know Judy and I take this with great pride, and it works for us and it works for the state. I was on the state board for 13 years, elected by my peers to be their treasurer as well as follow with the membership. And if I may, this is what it states. The Maine Municipal Tax Collectors and Treasurers Association is a professional nonprofit organization that seeks to promote the general interest of its members through exchanging of information and ideas. In pursuit of this object, all members of the association adhere to legal, ethical, and professional standards of conduct in the fulfillment of their professional responsibility. The standards of ethics and professional conduct set forth in this sentence below is in order to exchange the performance of all members of this association. Members shall provide approved professional practices and recommended standards. Members shall strive to prove the highest quality of performance and counsel. Members shall exercise prudence and integrity in the management of the funds in all financial transactions. Members shall not knowingly sign, subscribe, or permit the issuance of any statement, report, or provide information which contains a misstatement or which omits any material facts. Members shall not present financial information pursuant to the application of law and generally accepted practices and guidelines. Members shall not knowingly be a party to or condone any illegal or improper activities. Members shall respect the rights, responsibilities, and the integrity of their colleagues with whom they work and associate. Members shall promote equal employment opportunities, in doing so oppose discrimination, harassment, and unfair practices. This was updated the last time in 7/23. And to us that are members, we live by that because the alternative is jail if we don't do what they say and they can prove that we do it wrong. That's why we both stand on what we believe is the right way to do it, and if it doesn't balance, we've got to get it to balance. And as far as my position, my hands have been tied since day first month I was here, as I stated. Been asking ever since to get the assistance to approve and balance the checkbook, not the checkbook, but the general ledgers with the payables and receivables. And it is in writing in the management letters that states to the fact that that has not been done and needed to be done. And as of this date, they have not sat down with Judy or I on any of these matters. If you have any questions, I'm here for you, and I'm here for the town to do my job and do it legally, professionally, and ethically. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Based on, you said our cash is roughly 3.1 million
As of today, yes.
as of today?
Yes, that's what the bank says.
That's what the bank says?
Yes.
You mean if you go online and look at the bank balance? Do we have outstanding checks?
We have outstanding checks, there's outstanding cash, and those journals that are not posted, no journals have been made since I have been out.
So we
You're both-
most likely have less than 3.1 million.
That's what's in the bank as of right now before payroll hits or anything today. That was in there at 1 o'clock this afternoon is what the printout showed.
So if everything we owe came through today, we'd have less than that? Checks, outstanding checks?
If all outstanding checks came out, yes, there would be less than that, but I have no control on what's outstanding.
Correct. Assuming we stick to our guideline of having 3 months, we got to keep 3 months of funds available that we shouldn't be spending.
Right?
That's $2.5 million roughly.
Yes, sir.
So if we have 3.1 million in the bank, we don't know what's left to come out. We should have 2.5 million aside. How do we pay bills next week?
I can't answer that, sir, because I don't know what's coming in. I do not know what is outstanding because I have not seen it. I do not know what your undesignated fund balance is because your auditors have not been here to work with me at all since I have been here.
But the undesignated fund shouldn't be
No,
used for operational expenses.
No, sir.
So we have 3.1 million in the bank today. Checks and stuff are going to clear every day.
Sorry, I'm not a magician.
I'm not asking you to be a magician. I'm trying to ask how we're going to pay the bills.
When you have your balance, fight them up. For the beginning of next week, you can go by that. Also, for your information, as soon as if we get our audit, so it might be a behoove everybody to get the audit done, because the paperwork has already been filled out and waiting, and we can't apply to get it until the completed audit is in. We can't get the TAN. I applied for the TAN as soon as the budget was made for the first of the year, as I told you myself.
Okay, has the lawyer been contacted to put all the paperwork together for the TAN?
They can't, not gonna do anything until they get the audit. Now, as far as I know, the audit, what the lawyers have been given, I do not know because we have a new representative and they have not reached out to me as of yet.
A new representative where?
With Partners Bank.
Okay,
Eric is no longer there, and
Correct.
I don't know, I spoke to Courtney twice, and they're supposed to be meeting us, but they said there was no rush as long as we don't have our completed audit.
well, there's no rush for them because they're not running out of money, we are.
I understand, but I can't pull it
Okay.
out of my hat.
Okay? You said we have $1.8 million in borrowing power.
That's what we have borrowed.
That's what we have borrowed out.
That's what we owe Partners Bank right now.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Thank you. You sent us a bunch of reports today, like hundreds of pages.
Yes, sir.
Did you look at them, through them? Did anything look inaccurate to you in any of them?
As far as the posting journals, that's all I could do with what they were, with no instructions, no SOPs of what had been done prior, because the audit, I'm not pointing fingers at the auditors, but we've had no guidance to know where the postings of them go or the revenues for the sold property. We have reached out to Trio and asked them because there is something there in their program that would make it a lot easier. We don't have an answer.
Okay, so the 3.1 million includes the money from those lot sales. that we haven't even allocated yet.
Yes, sir.
So if you take that away, because that is gotta go, that has to be allocated to places, we've already run out of money.
I have not looked at this year's written. So,
Okay?
there seems to be more of the essence on 24 by the public and everything, so that's what I pushed to get, and I will work with Laura when she comes back in to get the backup documentation for these journals.
But
I
it's-
will not post anything to the journals without documentation to it.
All right. So I looked, your email came about 4:30 today.
Yeah, I was home and did
Yeah.
that.
And I had to look at it on my phone. We're showing a balance of $85,000 in our revaluation budget, according to your report.
That's what's been posted, I don't have proof of it, that's what's been posted.
Well, we had,
Sorry,
their bill was $175,000,
who's Bill?
O'Donnell's. Their estimate, their cost for that.
Don't know.
Well, we had 130,000 set aside. Then we approved another 40 for 175. We've paid them in full. They're not looking for any money. They've been paid their $175,000. But the $175,000 account still has $85,000 left in it.
I can't pay anything, and I know what's
I'm not asking you to pay,
happening here.
I don't want you to pay anything more because
No, I'm
they've been
not,
paid.
because I do not pay any bills. I cannot say what has happened from January 27th to this last week, what has been posted, what has been paid.
Okay. And I just looked at some of the bigger numbers that stood out to me that my eyes go to bigger numbers. We bought a brush truck. We had roughly $80,000 allocated for it. We've already bought it. We've paid for the truck. We've paid for all the repairs. That account's showing $64,000 left.
Yes, sir, I'm waiting on the auditors for the journal entries that we have not got.
Okay?
They have done, you rattled off the numbers, I have no idea. I can tell you that the way that we had to post the revenues that came in for the loan, as well as the bills for the school apartment, had to be, and got to be posted the way it is. When I received those, that's many of the phone calls that I've done to the auditors. And as for instance, this year, so far, as of February 4th, I called them 4 times. On the 5th, I called them 3 times. On the 6th, I called them 3 times. On the 17th, I called them twice. 18th, they called the auditors 4 times. And on that Friday, I called them twice. And I can't pull out the information if I don't have it. And as soon as I have it, it will be posted and balanced to what they've given me.
Okay? So I won't go over the other ones because we don't have an answer for it because it's clearly up to the auditor to fix for us.
It would have been nice if they had come back in when I asked them in the first of when I got elected, which I am entitled to by state to ask for an audit. You corrected me that I asked for a forensic. That's what I was told to ask for. I did not mean to challenge any of my predecessor for the money. I just wanted the books balanced because I found myself that there was issues where the money was going. Your due funds are a mess.
Okay, so let's put the books aside. You've been here a year, yes?
Yes,
In 2024, you handled payroll. We didn't have a payroll company.
yes.
How is it that the first, third, and fourth quarter payroll reports to either the Department of Labor or the Maine Revenue Service were either not filed, incorrectly filed, or underpaid?
I have no idea, sir. They were mailed. That's all I can tell you.
Well, they were mailed, but-
It's not any different than the charge that we got for $10,000 before the W-2s weren't sent, and I have no idea how that was handled.
That was before your time.
I understand that,
Yeah.
sir, but it's the same thing. If the mail didn't take it out, I can't do.
No, they received them. They were just either underpaid, not correctly reported, or maybe, and don't quote me, there may have been some they didn't receive, I'm not sure, but we can find that out. Do we have any federal Do we have any notices from the federal government regarding 941s or any of those taxes that weren't paid, underpaid? or
Not that I'm
incorrectly-
aware of, sir.
Not correctly paid,
Nothing's been given to me.
okay?
I know you want me out of here, John, but I'm doing my job.
Clearly you're not.
Clearly,
But
I
that's not,
am.
tonight's not the night for it. But
Well, right here,
Clearly
right
not.
now, I have asked more than 20 times in 3 months to come have some help. It still has not occurred in over a year.
Did you need help doing the payroll that didn't get filed right with the state, with the Department of Labor, that's cost us several $1,000s with the auditor to work with the state to try to reverse tens
No.
of thousands of dollars of fines and fees?
Know nothing about that as of yet, sir.
All right. We received $1.8 million from the federal government for the fire station loan.
Yes, sir?
Why'd you wait 1 month? That money sat in our account for 1 month before you paid the loan down.
No, it didn't.
It didn't?
You came in and asked for that check immediately. You had me cut that check as soon as it was here.
Okay, so we'll get the dates on that. We've had it for 1 month before I found out it wasn't paid, because you told me it wasn't paid, along with the water loan for $1 million. And we spent $12,000 in interest in a month because that money sat in our checking account and not paid off. We said, the board instructed you, and one of the very few times the board did give you an instruction was the minute that money came in, we were to pay the loan down, the day it came in. It came in and it sat for a month. When I found out it sat for a month, I came in and said, we need, along with the board, we need to get this paid today.
When would I-
So you cut the checks, we had the warrant signed, and I hand-delivered the checks to the bank so that those loans were paid off that day instead of accruing more interest. Did that not happen?
I cannot honestly say yes or no, sir.
Okay.
I don't have a photographic memory like you do, I guess.
I don't, I asked to find that information, I haven't received it yet, so.
If you're talking after you asked me to tell you what I wanted in the executive session, and which is on camera, with that you want the right to know law, I have not answered that because I've been trying to help the people of this town so that they could understand what's going on in this building, to my best ability.
I don't have any other questions.
Anybody else have any?
Dean?
Dean LePage. If it's true that we have, let me step back for a second. That 3 months that you have to have in reserve, is that a state law or is it a town policy? Or I know that the auditors have forever and ever said you need to have three months. Is that a state law?
No.
No, that's
No, no.
the auditor's recommendation.
It's a recommendation.
Yeah, and to be fair, in the past, we have spent our undesignated money on a regular basis. Before, even when the money was not undesignated, even when it was designated for the fire station, and we knew we owed it to the fire station, but we knew we weren't going to build the fire station for 6 months or a year. Instead of borrowing money, we spent money that was designated for things, knowing that the money would come back. So in fairness, we shouldn't be. The auditors say you shouldn't spend that money, but we have forever, and clearly we will again, because next week we got to write checks. And there is $3.1 million in the bank, and the checks will clear. But we're spending money that should be set aside.
Okay.
Dean, if I can answer one thing on that. Last year, I was juggling to keep checks to be covered. School checks, Mullins checks, he knew about it, the school knew about it, because the TAN had not come through. I had not been asked to do it, and one minute I was asked, I started it in and worked with Eric at the Partners Bank and Mr. Wood. But we were juggling money last year, and when it came in, that was our godsend, and then the taxes started coming in.
Okay, well, I just was concerned when,
So last year was the first year It was the first year we've gotten a tax anticipation note in a very, very long time, okay? A critical part of the tax anticipation note is cash flow report, so that the lawyers in the bank, you're not over borrowing. So they make you do a 12-month cash flow report from where you started. You start January 1st with $10, you bring in 100, now you got 110, you spent 10, you have 100 to start February with. And you got to do that through for 12 months. That report was asked of the treasurer for well over a month. When it was finally produced, and we have it in email, the numbers were so out of whack that I had to apologize to the lawyer and the banker for receiving what they received.
Excuse me?
You produced a cash flow report.
Yes,
that showed,
and then you
that
came
showed,
in and you did it yourself.
I did, because the one
Because
you
I had never done a cash flow before, and I told you that, sir.
17 years of accounting, and you can't.
We didn't have to do it.
A cash flow report, anybody with any bookkeeping knowledge can do a cash flow report. It's addition and subtraction. You don't even have to know how to multiply or divide.
Fine, slam me some more, sir.
I'm
Defamation.
It's not defamation. You're a seasoned accounting person.
I'm not an accountant, sir.
You're a seasoned bookkeeper. You've just touted.
I'm waiting for the accountant to help me.
And you couldn't put together a simple cash flow report, which anybody that owns a small business does. I mean, it's not rocket science.
You put figures in that I didn't know you would be using, sir. And I never got a copy of it back.
Well, it's been through dozens of emails. It went to the bank. The lawyer accepted it, and that's how we ended up getting the tax anticipation note, is because I sat down with 12 months worth of bank statements and did it because your report showed us paying the school $9 million. Your report showed us paying the school.
All right,
But anyways.
I think we need to kind of end this conversation. I think it's probably something that might need to be done in executive session. There's a lot of stuff happening right now, and as the hearing a citizens policy that we read in the announcements at the beginning of each meeting, I don't want to infringe on that. So,
Can I just ask one more question about the bonding?
we're going to look into it.
Okay, so right now, is it fair to say that nobody in the town of Limerick that should be bonded is bonded?
I'm not sure, and I'm not going to answer that without having the evidence in
I
front
thought
of me.
that's what she said in the beginning.
She said there's some people that aren't bonded, but there are some people who are bonded within the town. There's some people who should be that aren't. And so I need to look into that and figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No. We're going to move on from this. We're going to move to old business. First thing on old business is the review of legal accounts. I have not had a chance to review the warrants, so there's nothing on that. Cemetery mowing, veterans, and cemetery committee, there's nothing new on that. Recap on the Bricktown Hall accessibility policy. We had some questions about the second floor. We have an email back from the DOJ's office. The email is recommending that they cannot provide a general opinion on how the building should be used. We should refer to the town settlement agreement dated September 20th, 2022, and the parties' agreement on access to voting the program access at paragraphs 12 through 17. We are also still waiting to hear back from the fire marshal. Sure.
Gail Libby, it's my understanding that the DOJ's involvement was strictly for voting, and that have they clarified that, and we can now vote in that building if we wanted to?
The DOJ's email
Yes.
from Caitlin at the office says that she cannot provide an opinion on how the building is to be used. We should refer to the settlement agreement and...
Settlement agreement. Can we vote in that building?
I'm not sure. I would like to hear back from the fire marshal's office before.
Well, no. The fire marshal is how many can go in there, or maybe a second egress. It's my understanding that the DOJ gives you permission to vote in that building. It meets all the criteria that they go by.
No, the DOJ was not there solely for voting.
They weren't.
They were there, they reviewed the entire building for all public use.
Okay.
I believe the town clerk gets in communication with somebody at the main vote, I don't know what,
It's Harvard, that's one of the major things.
what's it called?
Harvard handicap accessible voting area.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones, but it's the state of Maine, if you're gonna change your voting place, you have to contact them. They come out and inspect it, and then they decide. As far as federal presidential type thing, that's probably the DOJ, I don't know. But if you can't, if the state isn't gonna pass it
Sure.
for voting, if it's not handicap accessible and available, that is a big thing. That's where they get sued. If it's not, that's why they're so fickle on it.
So is this document a public record that one can get a copy of?
The settlement agreement?
Settlement agreement, whatever that is.
I would assume, yeah.
And maybe it's on the web now, I'm not sure.
Gail, in answer to your question,
Yes.
I've got a letter here, well, we've all got it, from the U.S. State Attorney's District of Maine, that Dear Town of Limerick, I am in receipt of the contract and ramp photographs shared by Miss Buzzell in the late 2023. Please confirm by April 1st, 2024 that the town has now completed the 7 modifications to the Brick Town Hall listed in paragraphs 13A through 13C. Further, please note that the requirement in paragraph 15 that the town will take all steps necessary to ensure the persons with mobility impairments who cannot access the second or third floor of the town hall are able to vote on the first floor of the Brick Town Hall is a continuing obligation for the duration of the agreement.
And I believe we did that. We did a lot, we did a lot of things in that building for handicapped accessibility. Did we not? Uh-huh.
The only thing, you can't go to the second floor.
Right. So you
Or
can
people
vote on
with-
the first floor.
That's what it says right there.
Right, right. But as far as the DOJ's position, we can vote in that building. Then it moves to HAVA and state requirements, and maybe a fire marshal. Okay, thank you. That clarifies it.
The next on the agenda is lights for the municipal building. We have a second electrician coming on Friday at 10 a.m. to review the project.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
The Building Advisory Committee presented a report in the budget process and asked for lighting in the Scout Hall. And at that point, there was a discussion about ARPA funds. And a part of those ARPA funds would be used for that. Okay? So in your deliberations on this building, are you including the Scout Hall? Because that's the impression that was left with the Building Advisory Committee. Thank
I'm
you.
not sure, but I'm sure we can ask the electrician to look at the Scout Hall as well. The money on that vote was to do town efficiency upgrades at all town-owned properties. So, next on the agenda is revision of policies from the last meeting. We had 2 policies to review: policies on treasurer's disbursement warrants for state fees. The policy seemed, in my opinion, policy seemed pretty straightforward. There's a couple things that need to be changed, such as who the municipal officers are, as well as there's some blanks on it, which I don't know how we want to, or how we feel about that. So, I mean, my recommendation would be to change the current municipal officers to the ones who are sitting here. But I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about the blanks on here, which are either blank or blank, acting alone, may review, approve, and sign such warrants, or blank, acting alone, may review, approve, and sign such warrants. In my opinion, there should be at least at least two signatures in the event something catastrophic had to happen. There should be at least two. It shouldn't be just on one person.
This is only for
Yes.
state fees?
Yes.
This is not to pay regular bills?
Yes.
Yeah. So with the X's, you want to change that to any two? Of
Correct.
the municipal office above?
Correct. Any two of the municipal officers named above, acting alone, may review, approve, and sign such warrants.
I guess should say acting together, right? Because they're going to be
Yes.
acting alone. And the either and the blanks, we'll just remove them unless we want to put,
I don't think we need to name
Anybody else?
specific people.
Yeah.
All right, so is there a motion for the changes?
I make a motion, we change the names of the current municipal offices, remove the either or in the blanks, and where the X is, change that to any two of the municipal officers above, named above, acting together, may review, approve, and sign such warrants.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just asked a question, are you talking about state money, like motor vehicles and fisheries?
Yeah.
I believe the state law, the state said you only need one signature. Now, that was back when you had three, I don't know if maybe it got followed.
Well, the state law, I think, says it can be one. I think if we choose to make that a little more stringent on our own behalf to two, I don't know.
If they get their report every week, and it's normally 102 that.
I guess we could check the statute and see if the statute demands one or allows us to say two.
But this is just for disbursement of state fees only, right?
Correct. And then there's another one, I think, for payroll, which is similar.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Yeah, we're looking at it. Or he's looking at the statute.
Yeah, one or more, so we can do two.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the changes? Perfect. That passes.
Can you read those? What you're putting down there, who it's going to be?
The current municipal officials at the time of execution of this policy will be Brady Connors, Bernard Carroll, John Medici, Wade Andrews, and Howard Burnham. The next policy is written verbatim, except it says policy on treasurer's disbursement warrants for employee wages and benefits. My recommendations would be the same changes. Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Perfect. All right. And Alicia will get those written and we can sign them at the next meeting. Quotes for tree removal, we're going to hold this until after the special town meeting due to where the funding for those tree removals will be coming from. Additions for the June ballot.
Question.
Yep.
Did we mention last week, was that advertised?
The tree removal?
Yeah.
Alicia, was the tree removal quotes advertised? Or we reached out to tree companies? Yeah. So no, it was not advertised. We reached out to tree companies.
I think it'd be nice to get a couple more, but I don't know, now we've got figures in here. I don't want that to get out.
Yeah, we didn't read the figures last week because we don't have the, we're still waiting on a few quotes to come back.
Well, we kind of did.
I thought we
We didn't
stopped
read the
reading.
exact figures, but we went through what we
What?
have for a budget and said, well, this should fit, and looks like it was enough, so it was enough so anybody listening would know. We reached out to 3 or more people. We got 2 quotes. I
The
guess
only
we
reason I asked John, because we've got one guy 4 dollars up that didn't get called, and he's in the tree business.
Well, I don't have a problem getting another quote. I mean, if we've always wanted to reach out and give business to local people, and if I don't think the other 2 quotes were Limerick residents, so if we have a Limerick resident that's in the business and he wants to give, I'm not opposed to getting another quote.
I think irregardless of what it is, we need to get a minimum of 3 bids on this and advertise it. We shouldn't be calling around to these companies, because now it's playing preference. So then we
Sometimes you
can
don't get
qualify,
3
as long
bids.
as we qualify, that these people are qualified and can do the work and we don't have to mess around like what the situation we had down on Felch's Corner.
I'm happy to advertise it. It is not always easy to get 3 quotes. There are many times that we've advertised and I'm still calling people to get quotes. Not everybody wants to do a quote. They're not always certain that they're going to get the job. So that may sound like an easy task, but it certainly has not been. But if you want to advertise it, I am happy to put it out. We can put it in the shopping guide. I can put it on Facebook, website, however you'd like, and we can see how many other quotes we can get.
I'm just saying that, we could find that one person out there that would do the job, do it properly for quite a lot less money than the other bidders. And not that I'm out for spending a lot of advertising money either.
Well,
But
that's sometimes what
we
you
owe
have
it-
to do to get
we
people
owe it to the
to...
we owe it to the taxpayers to get the best job done for the cheapest price.
Sure, as long as we've actually had some that I've had a tree guy come that had not renewed his insurance, so he had no insurance, so we were not able to work with him. So, there are a lot of other things that do come into play with it as well, but...
Well, this goes back to having specs. I've said that so many times, it's pathetic. You have to say everybody's got to bid apples for apples.
Sure. Yeah, that's what we did. We had a certain amount of trees at both locations that they both went off of. As for cleanup, everything was involved in both of those quotes. But like I said, I'm happy to call whoever you would like or however you want to get that out.
Yeah, would you like her to advertise it, or you kind of tell her what to? Or does the rest of the board have any?
Well, like John said, the cat's kind of out of the bag. We talked about prices in here last week. So I guess on this one, we're probably going to have to go ahead. But the future, we ought to have those sealed and open them up at a meeting and not have it open.
We never gave the amounts out what the bids were.
Huh?
The amounts the bids was never given out.
Well, there were some figures that were mentioned.
I don't remember any figures mentioned.
The figures that were mentioned were the budget line amounts, and we said that the quotes would fit in the budget, but we never said what the quote amounts were. But I can understand how that can also be portrayed one way. Yeah. So I think for this one, it's fine. If you want to reach out to the local Limerick company up the road, we can. Can you reach out to the local Limerick company? Is it Black Bear?
Yeah.
Black Bear Landscaping.
And if there's anybody else that any other members of the board can think of, we just gotta kind of keep this other stuff under wraps at this point.
All right.
So should we take a look, I mean, Howard, based on your thoughts at the purchase policy, maybe next week, bring that one next? Because we followed the purchase policy, which doesn't require, for what we assumed was under $15,000, a written bid specification, opening bids. So we have to, if we want to take a look at it, we can take a look at it and say, maybe we do it for, you know, part of the problem is we've got a policy that says from $2,500 to $14,099, we do one thing, but we got to make our best guess as to what it's going to come in at. So if that came in at $15,500, then technically it should have gone to written bid. So maybe if we're going to be looking at doing more
See, that-
RFPs,
Personally, I don't agree with that policy.
so let's want to
Let's
bring it forward. Bring it forward and have a look at it. Maybe we need to adjust the amounts.
So we will review the purchasing policy next week. Additions for the June ballot. First one on here, we have questions for Historical Society. The request letter that was submitted back in on January 21st, 2025 from the Historical Society. The request in this letter, I'll read it. At this time, we repeat our request to include the warrant article presented to you last week requesting $5,000, the same amount as last year, to be included in the next town meeting warrant. This money is to make repairs to the kitchen ceiling and upgrade electrical services in order to continue expanding our services to the community. Respectfully submitted, Limerick Historical Society, Martha Hamilton Smith, President. And that is, correct me if I'm wrong, for the Congregational Church. That was the on Main Street that the Historical Society acquired. So I don't know if, I know the additions for the June ballot are, they're coming up quick, April 11th. So does the board feel any way on, is there a motion for the request on that, if we want to add it to the warrant or not for the June ballot?
Is the town going to be able to use that building free of charge? I know they had to pay to use it for the Christmas celebration. I would think that one day, if we're going to give them $5,000, we should be able to use that building. And I bet you could ask for donations and get more than $250.
And that's something we can consider. I mean, I'm not in a position to commit to that. I do know that the town, Greg, out of his budget, he gave us $250 towards oil. But they also used the whole building for a month, 4 different times for practicing, and then all day and evening on the actual day of the Christmas event. And we didn't put any, and then we offered free cookies and cocoa and coffee downstairs for the community. So I may be a director, but I could not make that commitment. I thought it was pretty cheap for the town for $250 when we spent more of that in oil. So.
You know, but we're asking to put town money in a private building. That's my only hang-up. I'm not dead set against it, and with the spending constraints we have now, we're not sure what we're going to have for funding. We don't know what the federal funding is going to be for education or everything. You know, if that doesn't come through, we're in trouble. I mean, everybody's in trouble, but.
Correct. And I understand that.
I'm not dead set against this. I just.
That we opened up for free. We did Halloween for free. We opened it up, the building. We did the Christmas choir. It was $250 that Greg donated out of his budget. So we do events for the community. Never before last year had the Historical Society ever requested any help with funding. And that was to put a bathroom up in the academy. and it's up and working. It's fantastic. Because here again, we do events for the community. You open up the doors for people to come in. The church, we've got more ideas, we've got more events for the community. It's the history. That church is the oldest building in this town. Should be the historical building. We do events, we raise money. I came up last week to thank the community for supporting the bake sale. We did fairly well, but our insurance alone is almost $8,000 a year. I brought in $888 for a bake sale. So it's still costing, and we're non-fundable. You know, we raise money where we can. We've got an event coming up May 17th that we do our plant sale and all that. So we as a committee try to make money to support the town. And that's why we're asking. If we repaired the roof off the church itself, that's where we had a leakage. So the Historical Society paid for the roof to be repaired, a rubber roof. We have the electrician coming in this week to fix that. We lost our toilets, both toilets this year. So we got to replace both bathrooms. So, yeah. So that's what we're asking the town to help so that we can continue our programs for the town.
I've got one concern. You've already got the old academy,
Yep.
and that's not being utilized
That,
much.
have you been up there, Howard? I'm not being rude. I'm just asking.
No, I haven't been in there
I
for
had
years.
not been up there. I joined last year and had never been up there. It's amazing. It's more of a museum. It has our history, this town's history in there. The upstairs, little creepy. It's the old Oddfellows room. But it's the history. It's a museum. The church, we're able to put on events. One of my goals for this fall is start to have in the kitchen. I don't know if you guys have been in the Congregational, but it's got 2 ovens. I like to cook. We are going to be offering cooking classes for kids, but also for adults. I had started that when I was rec director, and then I was done. We had a huge interest in that, to teach the basics, how to cook, how to, prep. So we still want to do more events. We're asking for a little help to create these events. We don't want to charge $100 to learn how to bake a cake or, something like that. We want to keep everything down so that the community can afford to come and learn. We put on programs year-round. We've got a big one coming up on the flags. We have a huge antique. We actually have to use the fire station because the flag is huge to lay it out on the floor. So we do. We have a Civil War presentation coming. We again have the Halloween event for the town that we open up. We have the Christmas choir that goes on there. So it's a community process. And I understand none of us know what's coming down financially. We don't know what the government's going to do.
But what I'm getting at is you're basically funding 2 buildings now. When you started with one and then whatever you did in the Moore building. I don't know how you're going to do this. I mean, this is $5,000 now. We're going to go 5,000 later, 10,000 later. I just, personally, I thought it was a poor choice to pick up that building, but I don't know the whole background of it, and that's kind of water over the dam right now because you own it. But I just think it's going to be you've got a money pit on your hands, whether you know it or not. And I know that just because I'm one of the directors of the church up on the hill. And it's expensive.
Right. We also had the church inspected before we did take it over, because of our concern of what we got into with the academy. The academy was given to the Historical Society for $1. It was a lot more than anybody expected. We did have the church inspected, and we know the sills are good, the furnaces are good, all of that. So we're already better ahead. We can do rental out. That's one of our goals, is to be able to rent out to help pay for itself.
So what are you going to do with the other buildings? Is that going to be a museum?
The academy,
Yeah.
it's a museum.
Gail wants to.
Yeah.
Would the board consider funding grant writing for these folks?
They can do that on their own, Gail. The town doesn't
Well, if
have
you
to do
hire,
it.
if, you can do it on your own if you know how to write a grant, okay? It's taken a few years, but, you know, we've learned how in the town. But we've hired grant writers. Would you consider giving them a few $1,000s to hire a grant writer and leverage that, you know, towards much more money than that? I'm just saying. That might be an alternative. Thank you.
Shall?
Is the whole academy even fit to be used? It's been, the back building, what is it, the back structure is kind of moving and unsafe, the back part of it. Has it ever been inspected to see if, she says that the, you know, ceilings and stuff like that, is it for public use before everybody puts all this money into it?
Not that I know of.
Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Yeah, and we...
As old as the building is?
Yep. So is there a motion? I'm not seeing a motion. We will move on to the next one. Next addition for the June ballot. Any items from the March 14th vote? I know we have a special town meeting coming up from that. I don't know if anybody else has any additions to add.
Can we go back one to the Historical Society?
Yes.
I've got somebody that'll give you a $5,000 donation. You'll be getting it within the next couple weeks.
Thank you.
So do we take the 5,000 off the June ballot?
We didn't vote to
We
put it
didn't
on.
put it on the June ballot.
You can't have both.
Yeah.
You can't have both.
All right, is there any additions from the March 14th vote that somebody would like to put on the June ballot? I'm seeing none. Next one is discussion of earned paid leave and discussion of the treasurer's request. I know these were discussed at the select board / budget committee meeting on Friday. The earned paid leave, if I remember correctly, was to set up its own account, bank, the reserve account, correct me if I'm wrong. And then the treasurer's request was an additional budget, more money for their budget for this year. I know I have not had a chance since Friday to review the treasurer's request. The earned paid leave one, in my mind, is pretty straightforward. The motion was to, or I look for a motion to create an account for earned paid.
I have one question.
Yes.
The earned paid leave, that is just for hourly people, right?
That is for employees of the town.
Well, does it cover salaried people?
The earned paid leave?
Yeah, that's.
Where
I
is the
don't-
policy for
okay.
that?
I don't believe elected officials get earned paid leave. So, like anybody that's on payroll gets earned paid leave, and we haven't earned. It's in It's in the personnel policy. It's
Okay, I'll look it up.
so many hours for every hour, week's work or something like that. I'm not sure of the exact, but it's only for employees, not elected officials.
But that's fine, because you can document the hours.
Correct.
But if you've got salary, they're on it for the year.
I think, go ahead.
Okay, the earned paid leave was started by our governor. Oh, I'm sorry. The earned like paid leave was set up by the governor, and it's .025 for every hour that an employee works. And with your personnel policy, the only ones that can't receive it are your elected officials. Your fire chief and the counterpart are all getting it because they're paid by the hour.
And that's under state law?
It was set up by Janet Mills 2 or 3 years ago for the earned paid leave because they weren't getting any benefit time for sick time or anything. You know, like for somebody that was working for the rec department or your on-call fire department. And then it's also written up that they can only accrue 40 hours in the year unless they draw it down, then they continue to add to it. But and they can carry it forward or be paid at the end of the year.
Okay. I'd like to make
Thank
a
you.
motion, we table this until next week so we can read that.
I think the question was, Stephanie at the budget meeting just wanted to see that this account not the end of the year go back into the undesignated account. That stays, that we make it so it stays within that because everybody might not use it right down to zero or may only cash out a certain amount. Like that was the question on this article.
We by law, we have to pay the earned paid leave, so we can't not pay that. And Alicia's right. What the budget committee wanted was to have the earned paid leave basically be like a rollover. So it doesn't, anything in it at the end of the year does not go into the undesignated account. It rolls over to next year. It becomes a rollover account with the hope that at some point it's kind of funded itself.
Yeah, so it's not keep raising each year, keep raising it again.
So it'd be a designated fund balance, my understanding of where they wanted it.
My question though is the process, hourly wages versus salary. You know, somebody's salary, their hours don't count, so to speak. No, seriously. But somebody's working 40 hours, I can see it. But to have someone come in that's just working just a few hours, I don't know, something just looks fishy to me
It was set up for the per diem people, Howard, as a way to give them some type of an incentive if they had to take a day off. That's what it was set up for.
Salaries already have that written into their job offer.
But the per diem are by hour, right? By the hour.
Yeah, well, the salary people, who in the town's salary is getting earned comp time? Nobody. They never have. It's
You don't take it, well,
It's for hourly employees.
most of the people that get it are the per diem people that, you know, provide the fire and emergency protection for the town.
It is under my understanding a state of Maine law.
It is a law.
Is it law? Yeah, law. All right, there's a motion to table it for next week. Is there a second on that? I see none.
I make a motion, we set up the earned paid leave account to be a designated account with any funds left over at the end of the year, not to go to the undesignated account.
Second motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
So there is, Howard, just for you to know, there is maximums that people can get. So they can only get 40 hours. The max they can get is 40 hours a year accrued of earned paid leave. So most of our salary people, and I'm trying to think of I mean, most of the salaried people are the elected officials. You have the code officer who'd be salary and not an elected official, so he'd be entitled to it, but he's going to get 40 hours anyways because of the amount of hours he's full-time. I think your concern would be is if we have a salaried person that's not a real high salary, right? And then we don't know what their hours are.
The money has got nothing to do with it. It's just a salary person can put in a lot more hours. Now, if they're documented hours, or if they say when we hire them, the salary said, that's for a 40-hour week, that's one thing. If you just hire them and say your salary with no stipulations in, then they can work 80 hours a week. We only got to pay them for what we did for us in our funds.
For the unpaid leave? You mean it's all we got to pay them for their salary?
Pay them the salary.
Okay, but if they're working 80 hours a week and they're overworking their hours?
If it wasn't designated up front how many hours they had to work.
But all I'm saying is, if they are somebody that's a go-getter and they weren't designated and they're working extra hours, they can only accrue 40. So if, under your scenario, they would accrue a lot more because they're working all those extra hours, but the max they can get is 40. So the motion doesn't change the policy. The policy is what it is. We're just putting it into a designated account.
So we don't have to raise and appropriate.
So we don't raise and appropriate it again every year.
Or as much each year.
In Maine, the earned pay leave or EPL law requires employees with 10 or more employers to provide paid leave accrued at 1 hour for every 40 hours worked. So that's 0.025, up to a maximum of 40 hours annually. And the employee can use this for anything.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Read the motion.
The motion was to create an account, so at the end of the year, any unexpended funds stayed in that account instead of rolling back to the undesignated fund.
Okay.
All those in favor? All right, that passes. And then the next one on here is discussion of the treasurer's request. I personally have not had a chance to review that. I don't know if any other board member has. No? Okay.
Well, when do we have to, speak of the devil, when do we have to have it in?
Dee Dee, do you know the date off the top of your head?
For the June.
June 11th, or the June warrant.
And when do you have to have the information warrant articles?
April 11th.
April 11th.
Okay.
All right.
So
That
we
gives
have
us 2 weeks.
Two more meetings.
2 more meetings.
Okay.
Was there nothing else from the March warrant that you wanted to add that had failed?
We didn't pick up on anything, no.
The code officer would like to have the question about the vehicle revoted on. I don't know how people feel about that. He feels that based on a lot of the expenses he has to pay to use the vehicle for town purposes, that it should be a town-owned vehicle. Whether we agree or disagree, whether it should be or not, we do have a vehicle that's lettered up that appears to be a Limerick-owned vehicle. I would be nervous if something happened, but it is his own vehicle, and he's welcome to drive it wherever he wants. I guess the question is, would we be on the hook if something were to happen on a Saturday when he has it at home? Are they going to go for the deepest pockets and think they're going to get money from the town because the town says, the car says Limerick on it? If we're not going to reconsider this or reconsider another vehicle or something, we definitely need to reach out to our insurance and see how that would be handled where the vehicle is lettered up. you know, with a lot of town information on it.
We can find out this week and get it ready for next week.
I think it needs to be more public knowledge that he's driving his own vehicle now, because it definitely, I thought he was driving a town vehicle because it has letters, so I think if everyone knew that wasn't a town vehicle, then they wouldn't.
And his request is to, based on his request, would be to sell that vehicle that he is currently driving to the town. It would then become town-owned property for the sum of $15,000, which in the realm of vehicles, it's probably worth it, but we could go out and buy, I mean, if we're not gonna have him drive that one, do we do what we do for the fire chief and like most other towns do and buy something different? Or do we continue to let him operate his own vehicle with, I think we definitely need to get an opinion from MMA Insurance to see what they say, and then decide from there if we're in hot water.
If that operates like the fire chief had to drive a municipal vehicle because private insurance does not cover him responding to calls in a private vehicle. It does not.
Is he receiving so much a mile right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
He gets mileage, yeah.
What did he put in for reimbursement a year?
From what I remember at the budget meeting when he presented this, it was an estimated around $2,500 that we reimburse him for mileage. In his budget that he requested for the CEO and constable, and I don't want to quote the exact numbers, it was $2,500 under code enforcement, $2,500 under constable for vehicle repair, maintenance, fuels. So it would be double what we pay him now for reimbursement because it would be paid out twice. That is how I understood his request. There'd be $2,500 under constable for vehicle maintenance and repairs and $2,500 under code enforcement for vehicle maintenance, repairs, and fuel.
So just a question.
Yep.
So you take that $5,000.
Yep.
Gets his own vehicle, we're still responsible for repairs and maintenance in that, but he
And
wouldn't get
insurance.
the money mileage-wise.
Correct. He wouldn't be reimbursed.
He wouldn't be reimbursed
If
any
it's a
mileage.
town-owned vehicle, he wouldn't be reimbursed.
So it would be, almost pays for the first vehicle.
No, in my mind, because right now we're reimbursing him for the use of his vehicle, we're reimbursing him $2,500 a year on average from what he presented. In his budget request for anticipation of getting a town-owned vehicle, it's the $15,000 cost up front to buy his vehicle, and then $2,500 under code, and $2,500 for a total of $5,000 for vehicle maintenance, repairs, and fuel. So it's $2,500 more yearly plus the $15,000 up front. Don't hold me to those exact numbers. That is what I remember from the budget meeting.
For your information, in '24, we paid out $4,681 to stand for mileage.
What was that number again?
4681.31. That was $1,181 over budget.
Thank you.
I can't see why we would want to put this back on the ballot, where they've just recently, the townspeople voted not to do it. Very short period of time. They said once, no, and to put it back on, I don't agree with it, but.
The only reason I would consider it is clearly the public might not be aware of actually, either it wasn't explained well, there wasn't enough people that came to the meetings to hear what was going on. Maybe they looked at his vehicle and said, we already have a great vehicle, why are we doing something different? I guess it's about information and how informed the voter is to actually what we're trying to do, but.
I think that also there was a little confusion, well, not confusion, but Budget Committee had recommended a no vote because of where the money was coming from. We had it coming from code fees. They wanted it to come from undesignated or capital project reserve, whichever one. But I also think that that might have caused a red flag for people too.
And I do remember them also mentioning if we buy a vehicle now, in 10, 15 years when the vehicle is no longer in operating order, is it going to be expected that we buy a new vehicle for the code enforcement officer at that time? So, I know I'm looking at a new vehicle right now and it's not cheap. So it is a good deal for the truck that is in question for sure. But I do think that maybe it wasn't explained well enough, but that's just my opinion. I'm one of five. So.
Well, we're getting into the funding thing again. We don't, we balked at $5,000 for the Historical Society. We don't know where our funds are or where we're going to land. I don't think if we wait if we have an election in the fall or whatever, I just don't think we have that extra money to throw out now. I am personally concerned about the funding. I really am.
Same here.
I really am. Just my opinion.
Okay.
As far as that vehicle being leaded and everything, he did that on his own, right? The town didn't tell him to do it.
What's that?
He lettered his own vehicle. The town didn't tell him or require him to do that?
I would have to double check, but I believe the town paid for it.
He what?
I believe the town paid for it. And the lights.
Oh, boy.
And everything on it.
You said, and the lights? The lights?
The lights, the flashing lights on the top.
So that's already town property, yeah. All right, well, there wasn't a motion. It was just, I think that was just discussion, so.
Go to MMA, find out that part, and then I'll bring it back next week.
About the insurance. Thank you. Is there any other items from the March 14th vote? I'm seeing none. That is all I had for old business. We'll move on to new business. The first thing under new business is the town-owned properties snowplow contract, which is coming up for expiration. We have a copy of this contract. This said contract expires on May 1st of this year. So we need to review, advertise, put out, request whatever the town wishes, the board wishes.
I personally have never seen that, so,
The contract?
no.
Yeah, I think we should,
I've seen the road contract, but not the individual
Town-owned properties.
town-owned properties.
So this is, a year or so ago, or longer, we tried to standardize the contract itself as to what we required for insurance and a lot of those. So we had basically a town contract that handled all the kind of the generic stuff and then an exhibit that handled the specifics to what they would be doing. So I think we need to take a look at the original part of because this shows as Exhibit B, so there must be another part to the contract. Is this it? I think we need to find, I think we do have another section. We need to find that. We need to take that. We need to take this exhibit, look it over. Make sure that we are putting in there everything that we want and how we want it, and get it ready to go back out to bid.
Is Exhibit A on the second page, or is that?
Exhibit A is on the second
Exhibit
page.
That's a
It comes
scope of
on
work.
Scope of work.
Yeah, and Exhibit B is the contract amount. So somewhere there's gotta be the front, like, there's nowhere in here does it talk about insurance or any of that stuff, so, I mean, that clearly has to be in the contract of what we expect, so. We spent some money with the attorney going over the general part of the contract. I do see there is a little bit about liability insurance in there. There was still well, not the equipment, because we don't have equipment in this one, but
definitely probably could use more added to it. I would think the contractor probably would even agree with that. I think that what you're talking about, the lawyer part of the stuff that we added, was added after this contract was signed. This contract was signed back in 2022, so it hasn't had that part. So I do think taking it and us adding all of those that we have currently in our other contracts would definitely be a plus.
Steve?
Steve McLean, before that goes out, there's got to be some requirement for the equipment that will be needed for the job. All right, we can't tell somebody you can buy an F-250 and plow all the municipal buildings without a loader, without backup, all right? You don't have to say it's a John Deere, you don't have to say it's a Caterpillar, but you've got to protect the town, all right? It's got to be in there, what you need for equipment. You want to call it minimal equipment or whatever. You can't just say get the job done, because we all know that you can't do all these buildings with one truck.
well, every other, I mean, I won't say every other. Most other towns don't do that. They don't specify vehicles. They say that you must have the proper equipment to get the job done
So what,
to our satisfaction.
What are we as a town going to say is the proper equipment?
Exactly.
We don't. We want the job done right.
Well-
If they're not doing the job right because they don't have the proper equipment,
All right?
who are we? You may be able to do it, but you don't sit here, right? But you may be able to specify that to some extent, because
Why don't we get
how
a
can you
couple of
co-
people together and protect the town? You know, 20 years ago, there was a group that got together that put out specs for doing all the roads, okay? What I'm saying is, in the middle of the winter, if somebody's not doing the job, how fast are we going to be able to find somebody, and where are we going to come up with the extra money?
Well, what if one guy wants to use? I mean, these guys have 2 loaders with big snow boxes on them,
That's what I'm saying.
and that's what they're choosing to use.
Right.
So what if somebody says, I can do it with 6 trucks versus 1 front end loader with a pusher? I mean, as long as it's getting done to our satisfaction, I don't think we should be nitpicking what they use to do it.
Well,
Because
I think
you've,
you know, the contract, the removal of the snow, okay? Prime example, well, it requires a loader to remove the snow.
well,
So that doesn't hurt to put that stuff in
the
there.
sidewalk guy uses his snow blower and blows it into his trailer.
That's right,
So
because
what
that's
if-
our
what if he- what if he
we put a
wants to do that?
specification of it had to be snow blowed.
So what if he decides to pick it up and dump it in the trailer when he removes it? Can you
No.
not do that?
No, because our contract says it's got to be snow
No, it
blowed.
says the sidewalks have to be snow blowed.
Right,
But up on Main Street, it's got to be removed.
right.
Doesn't say what it's got to be removed with.
That's right, it says it's got to be removed.
Okay,
That's
so
fine.
how do you care how he removes it?
If he doesn't have a loader, how is he going to remove
He doesn't
it?
have a loader, he blows it into his truck.
And he's got his Bobcat to load it with.
He loads with that too, but yeah,
Okay.
so,
We got to be more protective of the town, what I'm saying.
It says, where it says it has to be removed, if the guy bids on it, he doesn't have the stuff to move it, that's on him.
Well, it's on us, Bernie, because if we get a guy in here for a couple of storms, can't do it, then we got to go find somebody, and I'm going to guarantee you, in the 45 years I deal with all this stuff, the next guy's coming in a lot more money, and where are we going to come up with that? So we just protect ourselves a little bit, say, hey, you need a couple of trucks or 3, whatever you want. There should be some basic thing in there for somebody coming in here to bid, and how many hours you've got to do the job, or how efficient it is, all right? I mean, you know, we look over the Newfield, and, you know, it was a couple of weeks ago, the guy slept right through the storm. and created quite a controversy over there. So I just think something to protect
Well,
the
then we need to
town.
put in the contract, you can't sleep when it's snowing, not what truck you use when you wake up.
Well, I still think we should have some equipment in there.
Huh? With what?
John, didn't we go through this on the sidewalk here a year or two ago?
Went through it with what?
That they didn't have, they couldn't keep up?
Last year.
They couldn't keep up, yeah, that we've had two, it's happened, well, twice.
That's
But-
a classic example of it right there.
But it wasn't because of the equipment.
I
I
don't
mean,
know,
I
I'm
don't
just
know, I
asking.
mean,
I don't know the particulars on it, so.
and we didn't go to the person and say, you used the wrong equipment. We went to the person and said, you're not keeping the sidewalks clear. And it was unacceptable, so they agreed to back out of the contract. But we didn't go and say, you need to get A, B, and C to do it. We want the sidewalks clear, and we want sand and salt put on them. That was what we asked for, and that wasn't happening. Brady?
Rick Richardson. I'm the one that takes care of the properties for the town of Limerick, with Charles, of course. We choose to use front-end loaders because it cuts the time in half. And every storm's different. We can take the snow pusher off in 2 minutes and use the bucket to scrape whatever. Some storms, there's one pickup truck and one loader out there. It all depends on the storm. If it's ice, if it's packed, if it's wet. It's our choice to do that because it gets things done in a timely fashion. You can do it with a pickup truck. You can do it in 2 pickup trucks. It takes a lot longer to do it with pickup trucks. There should be something in there just so the town's aware that it will be done in a timely fashion, because every storm's different. But it's our personal preference to use loaders. It just saves a lot of time. So, just wanted to throw that out there at you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll table this. We need to review or come up with the wording for the, need to review this, come up with new wording possibly, and we need to present this back at next week if possible.
Well, do we have the one for the sidewalks also?
The sidewalk one's not up yet, but we can, that's on the website, but we can get that printed,
I'm
yeah.
wondering, should we as a board have a workshop to talk this stuff out as far as the wording and everything and what's been said?
It's definitely something that, yeah.
To go over the contract to here?
To go over all the contracts, John, for the wording
All of them?
and things that ought to be changed.
Yeah, do you want to do them as they come up, or you want to just go over them all at once?
While we're at it, we might as well do them all.
Well, part of the reason for going to the attorney a couple of years ago was to have the meat and bones of the contract be kind of a boilerplate one for everybody that worked for the town. And then that covered, like I said, the insurances, and things like that. And then the exhibits, and I'm okay to go over them. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but we had that done not long ago by the attorney for the meat and bones, and then we have to look at the exhibits that talk. I mean, Bernie just made a good point that under this contract for the new fire station, the snow will be pushed to Charlie Pellegrino's lot next door and will be removed as needed. Well, I'm not going to speak for Charlie, but is he going to let somebody else do that? Is that the best option for our town to dump? It's okay now because they have it and they agreed to it, and we amended the contract because the fire station just came up. But if they don't get it, I mean, why would he let another contractor?
That factor shouldn't be in there.
It should be in there. So that's something that's got to be changed. I mean, we have to find a different.
If they choose to put it on their land, that's their.
That's up to them.
That's up to them.
But I think most likely the fire station is going to say that the snow is going to have to be removed on a regular, every storm or when it piles up, because right now it says it'll be pushed to his land and removed as needed. if he's got enough land, he can make it melt there all year. He doesn't, I'm assuming,
No, he has
doesn't
to
care.
haul it
but-
away, so he has to haul it away so the water doesn't run down in the field out back.
That's all hauled out. Yeah, I'm just saying that it probably isn't the best thing to have in the contract, that the land gets, the snow gets
Especially
pushed.
when it goes out to
When it
bid.
goes out to bid, that it gets to go to Charlie's, you know?
So, yeah, I mean, set a date for a workshop? Is that the next step?
If you, I mean, can we do it like an hour before a regular meeting, or?
You think we can do it in an hour?
Not all of them, but we could go through
Let's get this
one
one
at a
done.
time and
Couple at a
see how it
time.
goes and do one or two at a time?
It's fine to me, as long as we do it.
Let's get this one done. This is the one coming up, so let's work on this one.
We want to select a date for that? 31st is out of the picture. That's going to be a busy night. So the next meeting would be the 7th. So
7th?
if we want to, I look for a motion to set a select board workshop to go over wording of contracts on April 7th at 6 p.m.
Town-owned property, snow removal for town-owned property.
Yeah.
Can,
Well, we don't want to limit it to just that. That's why I put wording of, well, I mean, we
That's gonna
can.
be enough
Yeah.
to do that night. That's gonna,
Yep.
we got an hour to do it. That'll be more than enough to try to get accomplished that night.
Yeah.
It's gonna be at 6.
6, yep. We have a motion. Is there a second?
no, the 7th.
7th, sorry.
6 is a Sunday.
7th at 6.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can we define how the workshop works? So it has to be filmed.
Yep.
That's by the public can attend, but it's our workshop and it's not a back and forth with the public that is there. So we have the hour to get
Done.
our business done. But public's welcome to attend, but it's not a, there's not a
It's not a
part
public
of
hearing.
citizens, there's not a public hearing, there's not a hearing of citizens at a workshop.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? All right, perfect. Next thing on new business is we have a candidate for the appeals board. Somebody has reached out with interest. His name is Ashley Dame. He emailed Alicia, interested in one of the open position on the zoning board of appeals. Feels he'd be a good fit. The positions have been open for quite some time. I know I've been reading those since I joined the board. Is there a motion to appoint Ashley Dame to the zoning board of appeals?
Make a motion, we appoint Ashley Dane to the zoning board of appeals.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All right. Alicia will reach out and we'll do that. John, discussion of the electronic time clock.
So in talking to Julie and Laura last week, we have talked in the past about having a electronic system to punch in. Right now, we're using time cards, which is pretty antiquated. It does take a lot of time for them to go through them and add the hours. Some come in on a tenth of an hour, some come in every minute, some work on 60 minutes, some work on 100 units. It becomes complicated. So what we talked about was getting an inexpensive tablet. Tablets are cheap. One here, one for the fire station. Although Vinny did say that the software they use for scheduling
First do.
may have a time feature to it, and if it does, it's something that he can use up there. And then those time reports can go to the department head to look at. They approve it and just send it right to the payroll company, as opposed to the treasurer's office overlooking time cards that two people are, somebody, the department head usually looks at the hours and totals them, then they review it again. It's antiquated and old. So the only Difficult piece would be the transfer station, because I don't think they have internet down there.
How do they
But
do
I
it?
believe,
I believe they get internet down there.
They do not. I know they don't have a phone line there because
the transfer
Something about-
station manager has a town phone? Okay. Assuming it can be done on a phone.
Okay.
So it's very simple to do. There's countless apps and websites. You might be looking at a $20 a month fee versus several hours every week for somebody to hand do time cards. So,
I can just say something, we no longer here in this building add up the time sheet unless the department head does it itself. Laura's just scanning the time sheets and the payroll company, my understanding, is taking care of it all.
so do you get a time sheet from every department head along with the time cards?
No, sir.
So who does the time sheet?
All we get is the time cards, and they're turned in by the department. Joanne, the transfer station brings theirs, Cindy brings down theirs, Benny takes care of his own, and there is just the few time cards for the building.
And you transpose those cards onto a sheet to go to the payroll company?
Just photocopy of it and it's gone.
Photocopy the time cards?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I found that out this just recently, I'm sorry, because
Yeah.
I edited the payroll.
Okay. Well, we've got department heads totaling time cards and treasurers photocopying them and then faxing them or emailing them off, so I think we can get into the 20th century and maybe get some tablets and so. Pigeon, yeah. So, I guess with some, not a vote, but with the agreement that we're looking to go in that direction, can we look into getting what the cost of the app would be and the tablets and figure out the most efficient way to do it and then come back?
Yeah, I definitely think we can start looking at that.
With some strong numbers and,
At the hospital, it was on our computers, it's an app on our computers.
yeah.
So that anybody could who's signing in on your number,
Yeah.
can just sign in on a computer versus a tablet or something.
Not that I expect that we have anybody that would do that, but having the tablet by a camera is nice as opposed to somebody punching in at home from their computer. So-
John, we have a system like that at the golf course, and it's all run from the onto the computer.
Yeah.
If one of the employees leaves and forgets to sign out, he can't put it in at home.
No, the manager
Once
has
it
to
goes
put,
out, it's blocked.
the manager has to put it in and
Right.
correct it, yeah, and that happens. Somebody comes in and forgets to punch in, they then have to tell their supervisor they didn't punch in, and then the supervisor punches them in.
Right.
Correct. So I think we got to get together with Vinny and see how because he was looking into doing it through the service you just mentioned, First Due, and then we can look at getting a tablet for here and,
I actually don't know. It's either First Due or IAR. There's two
Yeah.
platforms up there that's used. I would
We can-
assume First Due.
we can check on them.
All right, so we will look into that. Appointments for appointed town officials. We have a stack of appointment letters that we need to go through and approve and sign. The first one I have here is for Kristen Perkins to be appointed for a one-year term as the animal control officer.
Each one has to be individually done, correct? Didn't we go through this before?
Huh?
Well,
But they have to be appointed in or sworn in by
You.
April 1st.
Okay.
yeah. So you want to read them all and do them in a bunch, or?
Sure. So I have one for Kristen Perkins for Animal Control Officer for a one-year term. The term expires on March 31st, 2026. I have one for Stan Hackett for Assessing Liaison to the Select Board with the same expiration date of, they'll all be March 31st, 2026. Stan Hackett for Building Inspector for March 31, 2026. For Stan Hackett for Code Enforcement Officer for March 31st, 2026. To Stan Hackett for Code Enforcement Officer for Shoreland for March 31st, 2026. For Stanley Hackett for Constable for a one-year term ending on March 31st, 2026. Stan has a lot of names.
Is he going to live long enough to do that long?
For Stanley Hackett for E911 Addressing Officer for a one-year term for March 31st, 2026. For Dorothy Richard for an E911 Addressing Officer Alternate for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Raymond Bishop for EMA Director for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Zachary Bishop for EMA Director Deputy for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Robert Fawcett for the Assistant Chief for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Jared Welch for the Deputy Chief of the Fire Station for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Peter Proctor for Captain at the Fire Department for a one-year term of ending on March 31st, 2026. For Timothy Shmela, I can never pronounce that name, for a captain's position for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Robert Fawcett for a Deputy Fire Warden for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. You have a lot of swear-ins, huh? Do you have to do stands separately? Okay. For Jared Welch for a one-year term for the Deputy Fire Warden expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Jared Welch for Health and Safety Officer for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Nicole Kello as Lieutenant for a one-year term expiring March 31st, 2026. For Trevor McLaughlin as a Lieutenant for a one-year term expiring March 31st, 2026. For Siobhan Shea, I just noticed there's a typo in his name on this one. I just noticed that, so I don't know if that needs to be corrected before we sign it. But for Siobhan Shea for a Lieutenant for a one-year term for March 31st, 2026. For Alicia Buzzle for a General Assistance Processor for a one-year term for ending on March 31st, 2026. How did he get back in here? Stan Hackett for a Plumbing Inspector for a one-year term ending on March 31st, 2026. For Dottie Richard for Freedom of Access Officer for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Gregory Melhorn for Recreation Director for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Kristen Carl for a Recreation Director Assistant for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Dee Dee Tibbetts as Registrar of Voters for a one-year term and expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Dee Dee Tibbetts, Saco River Community Media Representative for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Dottie Richard, Southern Maine Regional Planning Commission for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. For Aaron Carroll for Tree Warden for a one-year term expiring on March 31st, 2026. That is all I have. Is there a motion to approve as I just read? There's a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Have you reached out to have all these people been told that they're being reappointed
Vinny sent me the list today.
for his people? Yeah.
Yes. She reached out to everyone else.
Everyone else? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? I'm going to abstain as there are members on the fire department. I don't want it to be considered conflict of interest. So we will sign those. Next I have is to sign 2 municipal deeds. I can pass these down for review. No, it's not for sold properties. These are for properties redeemed through foreclosure.
I'm just going to sign it.
We'll sign it at the end usually.
Okay.
Send them down so they can look at them.
All right.
How to sign them.
We need a motion to sign those?
Yeah. I make a motion we sign 2 quitclaim deeds as presented that are being redeemed for back taxes.
Second.
Second motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, that passes. Next, I have discussion of the town roads snowplow contractor. So I'll open it to the board first if there's any discussion on that. I know that I personally had a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, text messages regarding the condition of the town roads yesterday. I know myself and a few other board members spent some time last night driving the roads, and I think it's safe to say, I'm going to talk for myself here, that the roads were not in a acceptable condition last night or this morning, for that matter. I know that there was some people that got stuck on Range E. I can't go into every single one. My recommendation is that, per the contract terms, to send a letter to the plow contractor listing the issues that were seen last night and today. I know I went through the contract and I marked some of the issues that I have seen, not only with this last storm, but with the previous storms this season. One of them being, I'll just go through and read them. Mailbox damage. Second one being sanding and salting of all roads should commence in advance of snow accumulation or in the advance of beginning freezing rain or other mixed participation, and shall continue throughout the course of the storm. I know as of last night I had to ask him to come out to a few different roads. Section 8, number B, clearing of snow shall begin anytime snow accumulation reaches 2 inches on any road covered by this agreement. I personally saw multiple roads yesterday that had more than 2 inches from what I considered was 2 inches that hadn't been touched. Section 8C, when the snow begins accumulating, the contractor shall begin plowing and continue plowing until roads are cleared to the outside edge of the road shoulders. Section 8B again, removal of snow, slush, or ice shall continue until all areas are cleared of all such snow, slush, or ice. I know as of this morning while I was going to work, there was still a bunch on the roads. Salting, sanding, and removal of snow shall be completed by a following route that allows the contractor to complete all such work in no more than 5 hours total. I also think in this letter that we should request the equipment that is detailed in this letter in Exhibit D to be presented for inspection by the select board, one of members or multiple members before the next storm, within 5 hours of the next storm starting, I would say. I know there's a weather event happening this weekend, and in that letter, we should include that the contractor has through the end of the next storm to rectify the issues identified. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they would like to add to said letter. These are just my recommendations.
When you say the board goes and inspects the equipment,
So
I don't know about you, but I'm no position to inspect a truck.
Well,
I think it's a matter of...
I'd recommend DOT do it.
Well, I think it's a matter of seeing that the required equipment that we as the select board put into the contract. I think it's important. I know I personally have not seen all of these trucks, the 3 Sanders, the 3 small plow trucks, and 1 loader, or access. I've seen the proof of access to a grader. That is just my recommendation on what should be included in the letter. The board.
Could we, not to throw you under the bus, Rick, but that's, you know what you're looking at more than us. I think we could go as a board to look at it, but you could look at the equipment if you're comfortable doing that.
No, I'm not comfortable.
Okay, that's fine.
And maybe inspecting the equipment was the wrong term. I would like to see that the equipment that is required in the contract is operational and can be driven to the municipal building for me to get my eyes on. Charlie?
Charles Pellegrino. There's a conflict of interest here because the board just said that they're not going to inspect equipment for the plowing that me and Ricky do. You don't care if they do it with pickup trucks, the people that are going to bid on it.
Your contract doesn't have specific trucks. This contract is specific.
We got just as much plowing.
Well, then we need to change your contract.
Well, the thing is how can you just said you don't know what to look for checking equipment.
No, I can tell you this. I'm not a truck mechanic, but I can look at a truck and open the door and see if it's got a tag on it that says it's 26,000 GVW. Assuming it's got a tag that says that. He must have 3 of those. I know what a blade is, and I think we all know what a wing is.
So how come you don't need any of that to plow the town municipal lots?
Well, maybe we will, but that doesn't have anything to do with this.
I think that
got nothing
is
to do with this.
why we have the workshop for the contract, is to possibly, in my opinion, I feel that there may need to be some required equipment for that contract. But this is for the town road contract, and this contract that was signed by the select board and the contractor states the required equipment in there. Cheryl?
This has been going on since they signed the contract 2 years ago. I've been up here complaining about it. They never matched the beginning of the contract. They didn't put the sand up that they were supposed to. They didn't put the salt up that they were supposed to. They didn't have the trucks. A person can't just look at a truck and say, oh, okay, the numbers all match and everything. The rear end might be blown. Who knows it? It needs to be inspected by either a mechanic or, as Howard said, possibly DOT. I mean, they have to be mechanically functional so they're going to last. But this has been a nightmare since day one. People are sick and tired of probably listening to me, but the last contractor was put through the ringer. He had to have this, he had to have that. This plow contractor has done nothing to abide by the contract that he signed 2 years ago. It was a breach of contract from day one. And Howard and Bernie, I want to exclude you guys because you were never on the original board, but the rest of the board should be ashamed of yourselves to have let this go on this long. This last storm, I've been talking to bus drivers. They had 110 kids on different buses that were going over these roads, and SAD 57 is just as guilty as you guys because they won't complain to you and say, my bus drivers are having a hard time on such and such a road, so you could go and tell them. You did good this time, you called them in, but this should have been done 2 years ago when this was all started. And we're going to have to go through another year of this. And SAD 57 won't complain, so these poor bus drivers are out there with their kids' lives in their hands, trying to go over roads that are unfit to walk on. And I have no idea how you're going to do it, except, okay, you're going to write a letter. Well, that's not going to do a darn bit of good. Of all the breaches, he should be fined. He never should have got his last check for this year, and it should be viewed a lot closer than what it's been, because that contract might as well have been out the window, because it was never abided by from day one. He's never had his complete salt. He's never had, oh, we can pick it up at Allstate. We pick up the sand when we want to. Nothing in this contract has been legit, but the board has let it go on and on and on. And something's got to be done, because somebody's going to get killed. I mean, there's enough accidents this time. Kids stranded with their mother. I mean, the accident that they had, I saw the vehicle up on 160 today, and it's a wonder somebody hadn't got killed on that. So, don't know what you guys are going to do, but something's got to go different than what it is right now.
Isn't this part of the process, writing him a letter, basically stating not?
It should have been done day one.
Well, I
know.
However, it wasn't, so that's what we're doing it now.
I think this is part.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yes.
Andy Lehman. Yesterday you said there was just a couple of cars off the road during G. There were 15, including the truck that was stuck there.
The ones that I was made aware of.
Well, I'm just letting you know, okay? Since 2023, when that contract was signed, this guy has never done a good job. He rarely puts sand down. He drives around. I'll give you credit. He doesn't have rock dust in the bay. He's got sand, but the switch is broken for the spreader because he never puts it on the road. He might make one pass, and that's it. I have to clean the road in front of my house because he's a foot into the pavement that he doesn't even clear. He doesn't drop the wing. They go by at 25 miles an hour. They went over that road last night with a junk piece of a truck that you do a driveway with, flying down the road, no sand. There's a truck off the road on top. You're tying up firemen. You're tying up the state police. And this guy's never complied with this contract. And he gets a pass on it. I don't get it. I've been in this town for 18 years. I pay my taxes. I want some value for my dollar. This is ridiculous. We're forking this money out to this guy. He's got 4 trucks. 3 of them are broken all the time. What are we doing? It's ridiculous. The letter you write to this guy should say, the contract is canceled. We're putting it out for bid because of noncompliance. This guy does not do the job.
But we can't. That's the problem.
You can do it if you want to.
We can't. So we don't have to honor the contract because he isn't?
Non-performance. Doesn't the guy have a performance bond, or did you guys give him a pass on that too?
No, he does.
Well,
but why should we not have to follow the contract also?
And he has to. The town is not, because nobody checks up on this guy. His stuff is broken all the time. And he never comes out. He never pre-treats the road. He's never out there. It's supposed to be plowed continuously. That's in the contract. This has been going on for 2 years. It's pathetic. You guys should do better for us. We just write checks and there you go, buddy. It's got to stop. We have to have quality work for the money we pay.
What I'm asking is you as a citizen,
yeah,
do you want us to breach the same contract he's breaching?
I don't think you're breaching a contract. It's non-performance. He's not fulfilling.
But it's in the contract what we have to do if we believe he breaches. Do we not?
Write him a letter and say, that's it. That's it.
So want me to read what, do you know what do you know what we...
is who's ever supposed to be checking and enforcing this contract is not doing their job.
All right, so let's get past that. Let's say we all haven't done our job, but here we sit today. Do you know what our obligation is under the contract?
I know the roads are supposed to be kept clear, okay? You, on your contract, you give the guy checks, but the work does not get done.
Right. So shame on all of us. We've screwed up for 2 years, okay? Here we sit.
16 years prior to this, the roads were beautiful.
Here we go. Here we sit today.
Yeah.
I'm asking, do we follow the contract, or do we just take a chance and say, we're done, we're throwing you out?
The guy can't afford to fix his trucks. He's going to afford a lawyer.
What's the next step after you send the letter?
I said my piece.
Termination.
So we have to send them a letter that basically says, you have until the end of the next storm to correct your deficiencies. It happened once before with a contractor, 2 contracts ago. We sent them a letter and said, you need to basically do a better job. We identified the points of the contract that we felt they weren't reaching. We sent them a letter, and sure enough, from that storm after, I don't think there was an issue till the end of the contract. They did a fine job. But we did it before, we now have to do it again. We've gotten to the point.
It's just that the town is not on top of this more than they should be. Does anybody disagree? It's not Howard's fault, not your fault, Bernie.
Oh, well, we went out last night and, you
I
know,
know.
I mean, Steve will attest, you could not stand on the hill.
Right.
You could not stand on Ricker Hill. I got out of my truck and slid down and grabbed onto the police cruiser and spoke to the state trooper.
It was a frickin' mess, and then there was more accidents on the other side of the hill.
You know, the sand truck went by, the spinner was spinning, there was nothing. There was nothing coming out, so you can't defend that, but to honor the contract, they have to send them a letter. I know it's frustrating. It was frustrating I put 150 miles on my truck between last night and today, driving around looking at the roads.
Right.
Howard was out,
I mean,
John.
I went down Patterson and Foss this morning. You could hardly even drive on them. They were so packed, it was like ice. Not a drop of sand on anything.
Yep.
Well, I was wondering if we had enough salt and sand. And I went down to the shed this morning, we've got plenty, okay? And when I was down there, one of the trucks, I think it's the only truck that's on the road, I followed them up Burnham Road, and there was intermittent sand coming out of that.
Right.
There wasn't a steady stream.
I don't mean to be yelling at anybody, it's just very frustrating.
It's frustrating for
We pay a lot of
us.
money in taxes. We need to get value for our dollar, and the next time something goes out for bid like this, you got to assure that these people know what they're doing. This guy's like learning on the job. It's terrible.
Is there a performance bond or just a letter of credit?
Letter of credit.
I'm speaking to the chairman.
Letter of credit.
Why? There's supposed to be a performance bond for such problems as it is right now. That performance bond would have kicked in. They always have had them in the previous contracts. Why did this board slack off?
The previous board
I'm talking to the chairman.
I do not have an answer for that.
I'll answer it
was
because I
not
can
here
answer as a
when.
board. I can answer as a board member. The previous contractor had a letter of credit, not a performance bond. Steve Richardson had a letter of credit. I'm sure it's on file. He did not have a
LSJ had a
performance
performance bond.
bond. I can't tell you. I don't remember what they
Well,
had.
I can tell you that they
Fantastic.
did have one.
Great. I'm telling you what the previous
They had and they still got a letter of reprimand because they were being harassed because whatever. I'm just saying, this contractor should have had a performance letter, whatever you want to call it, a letter of reprimand on day one, because nothing. So this letter here is going to be worthless because it's not going to do any good.
Okay, then, I mean, do you not
I'm
want me
just
to
saying
send
the
one?
board's got to do something more than just a letter of reprimand.
And this is what we're doing now. We're
fine.
following the contract.
That's
I
good.
will fully admit
so
that
what
it
happens,
is late.
What happens after that? After the letter?
After the letter,
and
he
nothing
had-
happens with the contractor. What's the next step in the contract?
The contractor shall be allowed one plowable storm after such notice to correct the problem. If identified deficiencies in the equipment or performance are not corrected within that time period, the board shall have the following remedies in addition to any other remedies available at law or equity. The board may verbally terminate the agreement and shall immediately thereafter provide a written notice of termination to the contractor. It's option A. Option B, the board may hire a substitute contractor to perform the contractor's duties and obligations for any period of time. This right of substitution may be utilized if necessary during the one plowable storm cure period for breach. That's option B. Option C, the board may deduct and withhold any amount due to the contractor for prior work and apply that amount to any costs incurred by the town as a result of termination or substitution. That's option C. Option D, the board may draw from the letter of credit or performance bond to pay for all costs incurred by the town in the event of breach of contract or in the exercise of the right of the substitution established in subsection B of this section. So he has until the end of the next plowable event to rectify the issues that are going to be outlined in this letter. And if he doesn't, the board may verbally, any of those 4 options that I just read.
Okay. As a citizen, the citizens of Limerick need to be protected. They need to have a certified inspection done of all those trucks before they go back on the road, not just a board member. I mean, I could go out there. I've been around trucks all my life, but I'm still not certified to do that. That is something that has to be done by somebody that knows what they're doing. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is a way to get rid of it.
Yes.
He's not going to get all this, if it snows this weekend coming, he's not going to get all that equipment coming.
So if we get this letter out, yes, yes.
I'm getting my exercise.
Yes.
Walter Recker, how you doing?
Good.
I think the guy's had enough infractions. I think you should terminate the contract. If you get into the beginning of next year, it's going to be pretty tough to find somebody else to take the contract over. So keep that in mind. You know, he's had enough.
Thank you.
We got very lucky. You know, I had kids stuck in that hill last night. I went down with my pickup to bring them up. A girl with 2 young babies. Just got lucky. 8 hours, that road was never touched. Never touched at all. That's big neglect. That's just not a little hiccup. And that weren't the only road, obviously.
I think we got on it as soon as we found out. I think we went out and tried to take the appropriate action.
What do you do? The town office was closed, they went home because of the snow. Who do you call? I tried to call the dispatch and to get some police or somebody because there's cars all over the hill. They're backing into my driveway. I stayed outside and I counted with that truck that got stuck up there was 15 vehicles from 2:30 in the afternoon until, 8 o'clock or so when the other truck was gone.
Well, after 8 o'clock.
Ridiculous.
I know we're all supposed to have town phones. As soon as they get them, those numbers will be available. It
gets frustrating.
It was frustrating for us, Andy, too.
I understand.
You know, and the other frustrating thing is the guy got his last payment last week, so I think we have to restructure the payment schedule so maybe it gets extended out another month. You make an additional payment so that, well, he gets paid in May. So if something's screwed up,
March.
I know, but you extend it out to either April or May, past the snow season, so you've got some legs to stand on.
That's all I have.
I mean,
Right now, he can just tell you go pound sand.
yeah, and who are you going to get? The trouble is, who are you going to get?
Right.
You know, I think, you know, different eyes are going to look at this a little differently. I hope.
As far as the inspections of these vehicles, I'm of the opinion that none of us on here are competent to get underneath these trucks and stuff to tell what the hell's going on. The only one that I know of that is the State Police Department of Transportation.
Yeah, but they can put any vehicle out of business. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. You can have a guy certified to inspect a commercial vehicle, look at it. He's got a state certification. I know, if there's a sticker on it, that, you know, that's one thing, but the mechanics of the truck, if the sander's a piece of crap and doesn't work, or
You can call the State Police Commercial Division, they'll send somebody out to look at every one of them trucks.
Yep.
And, I mean,
But it's not just the mechanics of the truck, it's the equipment on the truck that's not working too.
But, you know,
the purpose of my idea of putting that in the letter, and this is just me, I'm one of 5, is to see that the equipment that is required I didn't mean inspection might have not have been the right term, to see that equipment can be driven up here in its entirety, that all 3 of the trucks, or all 6 trucks total, that the loader, like, to see if that equipment can be furnished. Maybe inspection wasn't the word, because in the contract, they have to get it inspected each year. But, Steve.
All right. Well, anyway, we've got a couple of new members, and we've got some short-term memory, but I did a little research. October 16th, 2023, Steve McLean, concern over the plow contractor receiving his first check and not meeting the sand salt requirement. Okay? That's when the first letter should have went out. Okay? We had an argument about it. It's all on TV, that because he was going to go to Carroll Materials, and Steve McLean said, I don't care where he's going. The contract says you will put up 2,000 yards and you'll put up so much salt, you'll mix so much. Was never done, okay? So that was 2023, October 23rd. I asked about getting the first payment if there was a bond letter of credit. Okay, so there we know that. Now we go to October 30th, Steve McLean. Hoping that the board has checked all the equipment and sand salt for the plowing contractor. Wish the board had raised the amount of salt, because we only had it at 65, but it's at 75, so we didn't protect ourselves, so we kick in $10 for each ton that they use, above and beyond the contract. Okay, and I'll give you these, okay? So, there's our third thing, but that's still 2023. November 13th, Steve McLean questioned, is there enough stockpile? Getting a load of sand delivered to the Bricktown Hall. So, there was another one about this. So, there's 4 on the stockpile alone. And then November 20th, that was when we had the discussion, and I said, make changes to the plowing contract the next time. All right, the previous board decided, well, we don't need a stockpile, we don't need to have this, we don't need to have that. Well, that's not your decision. All right, you talk about a breach of contract. That was a breach of contract on the select board because you put a contract out and we didn't abide by it. All right. Let's see. And there was another one here, why we are wishy-washy, some of them over salting and sanding. All right, we should treat all the contractors the same. And then we had, I think there was one more. And then, of course, this year here, various times that we've done it. This one here was on December 26, 2023. Have some clarification on the plowing contract, because we just haven't enforced nothing. So 2 years later, now we're doing this, which is a good thing, all right? Last night, today was just a total tragedy, all right? In the 45 years I've been in the industry, I haven't seen this town so messed up as that, okay? And I do know for a fact, for last month, 3 of the major trucks were broke, okay? One of them was broke since November, all right? Now that's November. All right? No one on the board paid attention, okay? Last winter was the easiest winter we've had probably in 20 or 25 years, okay? We skate by. This year we had a little bit more. But at some point in time, select board, I don't care who you hire, who you do what, your job is just to say, all right, you got 3 big trucks with 11-foot plows, 11-foot rings, whatever we got in there, okay? Used to be, you had a couple of 1-tons, but I think, Ricky, Charles, 9-foot plow had to be on them, all right? There's nothing. We don't care what color they are, the safety lights, everything else. We have had so many crashes. And if you would like, I got pictures of everybody. I'm not going to put you on the spot, Brady, but you and I have been at 3 different events here on crashes where there has been nothing on the road. We don't even have to argue about it, all right? I stopped and saw John one day down at the bank. I says, hey, get him up on 160. We just had a crash. Okay? I do it. They'll tell you. I make a call. I'll say, you guys got to get up here, got to get up here. But last night was the epitome of everything, because as of 12 o'clock yesterday, there was one big truck running. At 12 o'clock, they come over to my place to get some equipment to try to get the other truck out. And that was the one that tried to back up the road last night, but the sander didn't work. All right? I mean, we just got caught so bad, all right? And I know for a fact that the guy was supposed to do that side of town. He had a prior engagement, and none of the other team members went over and did his section. So that was the excuse. But, as I've told the plow contractor, it's your contract. It's your contract, you have to do it, all right? Stone Hill Road one morning, 6 o'clock, all right? And you came out and made a phone call, and he came out, but that guy crashed and totaled his car. At some point, we got to say, you know, what's going on? Maybe this town has grown enough, we divide the contract into 2 halves. And one person might not be able to do it anymore, okay? But the underlying factor is, last night, we should have had a mechanism in the town where that wasn't done, all right? And I asked Ricky, I did call Ricky, and I know you did too, because he had a sander to try to get that guy off the hill, okay? He was tied up, and that's justifiably so, all right? But it seems like every storm, we're helping this situation out by not saying, hey, you need some more trucks, all right? You need more trucks. I mean, if 3 are broke, you better go buy another truck. That's not our problem, all right? That contract, whatever it is, 350, 360, if it doesn't snow like last year, he made out good. If it snows a lot, so be it. Our idea here is to protect the town. So we were pretty vulnerable, and even this morning, all right? And, you know, I can go all day long on it. You know, I deal with every town all over the country, and we need something that's critical. We make a phone call, somebody can come out and get some sand down, right, to help that out. Either that or we should shut the roads down. That may have been the best thing last night, is just say, hey, we got to close this hill down, block it off at Foss Road.
Steve, his truck was broken down since November. We went 2 months without any snow. We did.
You want to fix it, right?
Well, we went 2 months without any snow. You think if it was broken, it could have got it going. I don't think this has been a particularly hard winter. We haven't had a big storm. We haven't had a big storm like you used to get. You plow for 3 or 4 days at a whack.
We had 4 of them in a series of like 12 days, and he did crap the whole time.
I wasn't here then, Andy.
I know, but I'm just saying.
And we're trying.
You're lucky that the state plows in front of your place.
Well, they get my mailbox too.
Yeah, I got mine last year, so.
Well, there's 2 trucks sitting right down to Waterboro right now.
Are they his trucks?
Yeah.
So
There's
they're
the
out of
garage
service.
down there.
I've been down there for a month or more.
This afternoon,
Don't have an answer.
Knowing that's one of the reasons why in that letter I would have liked him to be able to provide the equipment required. Now, like I said, inspection of the equipment may have been the wrong word, but having the equipment driven here, seeing it, that, I mean, doesn't have to work. I mean, it does have to work,
Gotta
but
make sure it works.
it can't, I'm not the one to tell if it works or not.
Trucks out of an auction, they
Dean.
don't have the right DW sticker, they don't start, they don't run, they got whole tires. I mean, you know.
I know we've beat this up pretty much, but if you're gonna send them a letter, I mean, this is Tuesday night after 9:30. It's probably not gonna get written up until Wednesday. Wouldn't it be best to hand deliver it versus mailing it? Because we do have another storm coming up this weekend.
Yep, my plan, if I said mail, I thought about it, is to see if our constable can deliver it.
It should be.
Yep.
The second part is if the equipment is not available to do this job right now, is that not a breach of contract as well?
In my mind, it's a breach. Yes, it is.
Okay, so doesn't that kind of take it to a more serious level than, well, you didn't do a very good job plowing, even though you had the equipment, you need to do better, versus you don't have the equipment. I mean, I would think that would raise the issue a lot higher than that needs immediate attention. Without, you got one more storm. I mean, the
I agree
equipment
that it's a higher level of breach of contract, but the reason for the letter is because that's what the contract states, is that we give them a verbal warning, which I don't know if you count my calls as verbal. I mean, but then a written, and that's where we're at now, is the written. That's my recommendation on what we do with this situation. And then if I know the weather says it's Maine, so who knows? But the weather says we have something coming this weekend. If it's not done, it's Monday night. I already I have a recommendation in my head. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We got another month of winter, Dean, you know that.
Exactly.
We have another month of winter anyway.
But if the contract says that you're supposed to have that at this minute that we're talking, and you don't, you're breaching the contract. I think that's what Sherry is. He doesn't have the equipment, he's breaching the contract.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Terrific. I just think that we really better pay attention to this because he has another year to go, right? So if we don't unload him because he's failing us, and we get in the middle or the beginning of next year and we really get slammed and everybody else is working and busy, they're not going to want to or be able to come help us. We need to get rid of the contract, put it out to bid, and start over. To play it safe for the townspeople. We can't put people at risk. Because if somebody gets killed and they take a suit against the town and they find us liable because we didn't do everything that we could do, the town's going to be on the hook for some big money.
So if we, let's say he says, all right, if we throw him out of the contract.
Let him finish this year because he's been paid.
Yeah. And then just tell him you're not coming back next year.
Correct.
Okay. What happens to his irrevocable letter of credit? At that point, does it go away? He's done. We're done with this guy, and he goes down the road.
What do you want to do? What are you going to do? You got to weigh the options.
Plow next year. To hire someone.
That irrevocable letter is only if he walks away, John, and we have to call that.
Well, if he fails to perform.
Yeah, he has, hasn't
so, well, we have to give him.
Hasn't he?
We have to give him the proper notice.
Which you are.
Which we're going to do. If he doesn't perform, then we as a board have to decide which of those choices we choose. Okay?
I mean, I don't think you guys as a board or anybody else should be looking at his stuff and taking responsibility. That's a big thing, too. I wouldn't do that.
And whether he stays or goes...
I mean,
so we go back out to bid, and next year is $500,000. Do we... That just goes to the taxpayer?
That's quite a jump.
Well, the other bid, we had a bid of 700 and some odd thousand.
Well, I think there's guys out there that'll give you a reasonable price, you know?
But this contract...
You gotta reach out. You gotta reach out. You don't have to...
Well, we put it out to bid, and we had 3 bids. One was 700 and something,
well, we can't
and 2
be
were
afraid to
365.
act, John, if we
No,
we can't let them pigeonhole us.
No, I don't want them pigeonholed.
I mean, you saw that hill last night.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I want to figure out is what is in the best interest of the town to move forward if next year it is $400,000 or $600,000. If the letter of credit is still in place, then we can use that to help the town offset it. If we throw him out of the contract and say, you're done, we're terminating your contract, then the letter of credit goes away.
We're terminated it because he breached it.
That's fine, but the letter of credit goes away. So we don't have that to protect us for next year if it's higher than the $360 we're paying him. So I'm not saying there's a great answer.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he shouldn't go. All I'm saying is we have to consider a tactical approach.
We end up at 400 and we're getting the service that we deserve, then it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly the contract needs...
I mean, I felt bad for the driver last night of that wheeler trying to back up that hill. There was no mirror on the passenger side. I drive trucks. I know what it's like. And it's raining, drizzling, ice. The spreaders ain't working.
So if you do, I mean, unfortunately...
If it was my company, I would have been out there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You were out there. I was out there.
I don't disagree with you. I do not disagree with you.
Well, we got another one coming, so
the contract,
I don't have much faith. I think he'll probably screw it up for himself.
In that case, then we can terminate the contract and we move on. Brady, if you do look at, if you saw the contract, Unfortunately, there's two clauses about breach. One is very specific, and one is not so specific. So either way, I think asking to produce the vehicles, that the minimum vehicles that are required, and I'm not saying we're going to be able to get underneath them and check transmissions.
Yeah, no.
But I would assume that if vehicles are somewhere else, if they can drive here and he can demonstrate that they're running and the sanders operate, I mean, that's kind of the extent of what we can do.
And that's one of the, that's one of the multiple deficiencies
should
that will
have-
be pointed out.
They should have inspection stickers on them,
DOT numbers.
DOT numbers if they're the right size. And, yeah, I know there's a lot of talk about, a lot of people didn't like that there were pickup trucks plowing the road. Well, the contract calls for just as many pickup trucks, 3/4 tons, as it does big trucks. So if that's something we need to change, or, what's that?
Yeah, the pickups you need, will always be needed during the section.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much is the letter of credit?
The letter of credit is
I know they lowered it. It used to be
$237,250.
65% of the contract, I think,
200.
the letter of
How
credit.
much? I'm sorry.
237,250.00.
Okay. Doesn't cover the year for next year, since the performance bond was excused, and that would have taken care of a lot more. The $237,250 would put a good dent into the $365,000, and we'd have to raise a little bit of emergency funds.
No, you'd put those two numbers together, because you'd pay the 365 to him anyways.
Okay, so
So
we're-
that gives you 600 and some odd $1,000 to spend.
We're good. We're good.
Right,
He
'cause
hasn't done his job. He should lose his letter of credit and keep the $365,000 for next year to hire somebody for a year.
Did a whole new contract for 3 years.
What's that?
Did a whole new contract for 3 years. Why are we gonna do it for one?
This is all I'm going to say. This guy has not gotten this right for 2 years. I don't know why you'd want a third. It's just, it's silly. We're wasting everybody's money. You know, if we have to pay 4 1/4 a year to do it, then that's what we have to do. You know, none of us would be here if the roads were cleaned like Charles and Richard do, you know?
When that contract was put out, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we had two contractors, this contractor and another one with the same money,
Correct.
and the other one had a bond ready to go.
So hey, he's talking to me. But he was talking to me. Our lawyer recommended a letter of credit. Much easier to deal with a bank than an insurance company. This letter of credit states pretty clearly, if we believe he breached the contract, we are to write a letter and we say he breached A, B, C, D, E, and F of the contract, and to make up for that, this is what it costs us to bring in people to get it correct. Therefore, we are issuing a demand for $150,000 of the $200, whatever it costs us to fix it. We're going to go to a bank, local partners bank, as opposed to Travelers Insurance that might issue a bond, or Liberty Mutual, some national insurance company. Everybody's dealt with insurance companies. They're not easy to deal with. This is Partners Bank, who we deal with, and it's very clear is what we have to do to get our money. So this is, according to the lawyer, a much easier process to go through than trying to file a claim with an insurance company for a bond. That's why we offered both.
I think it's the wrong way to go myself, but.
Question. So he's bonded? Is that what we, insurance?
No, it's an irrevocable letter of credit.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with insurance.
So he has this credit. If we ended up tomorrow having to hire a new contractor, even though we paid him his last paycheck, doesn't that come out of that insurance?
Out of this letter of credit. So
If we follow
So
the
we don't have to
if-
cough up
if
$150,000?
last night we had the ability to get on the phone and call whoever we could, that we knew had a plow truck, that we trusted they were insured with the town, and said, can you help us out? We need these 3 roads plowed, sanded, salted, the whole 9 yards, okay? We could do that. We then take their bill and we say to the contractor, in emergency, you breached your contract, we had to bring somebody out. What, you either have to pay that, at this point you'd have to pay it because he's been paid in full, or you withhold it from his check, or if he refuses to pay, you go to the bank and say he breached the contract. So now, if we send him this letter, and he has until the end of the next storm to correct, yeah, let's be ready, okay? People can yell and scream. He has the next storm to try to figure this out. So it could be worse, could be better than what we had, we don't know. But if it happens this weekend, we have to deal with it on Monday, right? And he's got till the end of the contract to do it. Now, if Brady's gonna ask him to present his trucks tomorrow, and he can, according to the contract, he can be notified orally, verbally, and in writing, so you have to do both. So you could call him and say, you're getting a letter that says, your trucks must be at the Limerick Municipal Building Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. If he doesn't produce the trucks, we can then say he's breached the contract, and we can go to these pieces. And if at that point we have a choice, we have to say to him, we got snow coming this weekend. Are we going to be screwed again and have what we had the other night? Or do we call around and try to scrape up anybody we can that's insured, that's got a certificate with the town, and say, suck it up. The last couple storms, we're going to figure this out.
And then the money would come from the...
We then would have to make a demand to the letter of credit.
Thank you.
I saw it jump out at you. Steve.
So you send them the letter, and, you know, the problem is we've been lackadaisical for 2 years, all right? Nothing against him, he's been able to get away with it, right? No one's checked the thing, and, you know, by the end of the week, he's got to have the equipment that'll be able to go out and do it, all right? And several times, in his defense, he's told me he's called 6 guys out, thought they were all out, and only 2 guys went out.
But that's not defense,
That's not-
that's
yeah.
his contract.
That's on him. He's
That's
not
on him.
not a good supervisor.
I know, but you said in his defense. That's not a defense to him.
Well, I'm just
That's-
saying,
That's
he
irresponsible
thought
of
they
him.
were out, and that's why, as much as everyone can say, you know, you call them up and say, hey, how come this isn't done? How come that isn't done? All right? Charles went out with his loader one time, at Stone Hill Road. Never got done. This was, very beginning of the year, right? Some tractor trailer decided to go up Stone Hill Road. It was not sanded, not plowed. We spent 4 hours out there, all right? So, we got $500,000 of fire trucks out there and 8 or 10 guys, and got to wait for a loader, and it was a mess. And then he came himself. I called him. I says, you got to get out here, all right? But we shouldn't have to do that. There's got to be some guidance. We've kind of turned a blind eye last year because we didn't have much snow, all right, and that's fine. But, you know, how close did we come this last storm to having a fatality? Okay? Never mind all the fire trucks going out to these calls, all right? That's putting us at risk, okay? And last night, then we were sitting on the hill, and here comes somebody 40 miles an hour, went right around Tim Smerella's truck, and it headed right for us. Okay? But like I said, we should have had something there that we could have
Should
done.
have shut it off at the Foss Road. But getting back to the plow guy, if he's responsible for it, he should have been out there driving the roads to make sure his crews are out there.
That's it.
It also states, Bernie, in the contract that he's supposed to have radio communications.
I know. Yep. Well, like I said, but where does the enforcement come? said, we've been lackadaisical. But I'm telling you what, if we have a fatality, it's going to be different in this town. All right? The state police, over the state police radio last night, at about 5 o'clock, one of the troopers said, be careful in Limerick, they don't have any more plows. How embarrassing. Today at our call, the trooper documented how bad the road was. Okay? So.
I'm not here to complain more than anyone else has already said. I think everyone said what I would say. But I do think we need to be more proactive when it comes to what our next steps are, because right now we're being a little too reactive. But we have snowstorms coming Saturday, this says Tuesday, and it also says Thursday. So if we're sending this letter now and they don't do a good job, we need to be prepared by next week to already have someone lined up to make up for their bad performance on this next storm. So I think as great as all the feedback is, I don't think that's going to help us for our future storms to stay safe. So I want to make sure that we have someone lined up as our backup plan as soon as we send this letter so we can continue moving forward. So let me know what that looks like for a plan to line someone up.
Which, you know, as the gentleman said in the back, it's not as, it would be nice if it was as easy as that, just making some phone calls. But to find people to plow roads with the equipment this time, they're plowing roads, right? In other towns, they're doing, so yes, it should be done. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just not as easy as making a call and say, hey, come plow Limerick roads.
But if sending a letter means that there could be, a breach of contract where we're saying we don't want to work for them, what's guaranteeing that they're going to plow the roads correctly the next storm, which is 2 days later? So I'm saying right now, I'm suggesting the board come up with a plan for what happens for the next storm if they don't perform.
So unfortunately, if we send a letter and he miraculously on Saturday does a great job, and at the end of the storm, everybody's here and saying, boy, thank you, he did a great job. If he screws up on Sunday, starts over to the end of the next storm. That it's, maybe the contract needs to be looked at and certainly rewritten because there's some flaws in it. But that's the way the contract reads. So those are our options.
I'm not here to beat the guy up or anything, but I plowed snow for my father for 18 years. Charles is right there with me. We did it 3 years on our own, and my brother did it for 6. We've all had breakdowns. We've all fallen on hard times. First thing my father did when his truck broke down is he picked the phone up and he called every available pickup truck there was to go out and just make an appearance, make a few passes on the road, and do whatever you could do just to plow the road. I know it sucks, but you gotta do what you have to do. And I don't have a problem with pickup trucks out there. If they're just making a pass every hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, how it depends on the consistency of the storm, how heavy it's snowing. If they're making a pass, I gotta give them credit. It doesn't hurt to pick the phone up and ask for some help. I mean, we plow Back Street because we're all over the place. We go from the fire station, Burbank Street, we're all over the place. I don't have a problem helping out, but when it comes in a situation like that, it doesn't hurt to pick the phone up and try to find somebody just to help out for a couple hours, you know what I'm saying? And maybe everybody's busy. I know everybody's busy plowing, but that's what my father used to do. Back then, people with pickup trucks, teenagers, you know, they're plowing freaks. We've done it since 1982. When it snows, we go. So hopefully it works out. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Thank you. All right. So I gave my opinion on what needs to be in the letter, and that I think that there needs to be a letter. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I think we all kind of agree, but
I make a motion that the board chair write a letter to the plowing contract outlining his breaches and the remedies afforded to him, and that he is notified verbally and in writing.
I'll second it.
I'm giving it to Brady to, my motion is giving Brady some latitude as the chair to write the letter that he outlined.
yeah, and yes, that will be in a portion of the letter. All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, I will get on that. That is all I have for new business. Is there any hearing of citizens? Cheryl.
To get back to the situation with Julie, the other night I was here, I haven't been here in the meetings for quite a while, but I didn't think it was appropriate and very professional of the board to, well, they didn't quite backstab her, but they were trashing her, and she wasn't here for a chance to talk herself. She says she'll be here anytime she's needed, and there was a lot of discussion about balancing the books and doing this and doing that, and I didn't think it was appropriate because she wasn't here to defend herself, and this has been going on. They had a little bit of a discussion tonight. Well, okay, but it's not all on her. Every town does it differently. We had a great treasurer for years and years, and she had her way, and the people knew how to work with her. And we have a new treasurer, and she's going to be a great treasurer, and she's going to be even better if the people of the department heads will work with her. And it's just, I don't think that she's given a fair shake without being trashed. From what I've gathered, this new trio thing on the computer, there's not too many of them that like it, but that has thrown a wrench into the works and whatever. And just for people's information, I've looked up, I heard someone say something about they wanted to know about the lawyers' bills for the CIA, Bernstein Planning Board thing. They was talking 10,000, well, I've got every legal bill there is, and it was $17,710.96 since December 2023 up until March 2025. And they were all labeled CIA, so it wasn't, and it's Bernstein, and I think that's all they handle for the town, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
He had to have a special lawyer, so okay. And let's see, there was a couple of other things that I had here that I just informational. What meeting? It was a recent meeting. There was a subject, the business park was brought up about selling land and stuff like that, and how people got cheap lots, but they didn't build on them. Well, I think I figured out, I'm not quite sure, but I think there's 6 lots down there that have not been built on or done anything on. But there's always just 2 lots that the select board is always bringing up a subject, and it doesn't matter. They're paying taxes on them, and it's not a subject that has to be beat to death. Just little things like that. Okay, what else? Voting. The town manager was, I have heard, the reason why Article 11 didn't pass. Don't know for sure. This is rumors, Limerick. And it's been taken out, so hopefully with it being individually, we can pass each one, and we can keep the town running, which would be a good thing. But I don't understand, when the town has voted down something 2 or 3 times, why does the board insist on putting it? Just like town clerk, tax collector, road commissioner, and treasurer. We've always voted them in. We want to vote them in. Every time that comes up on the warrant, it gets voted down. Give it a break. We want our people voted in so they're not controlled by anyone. But the people.
Okay.
Okay? Just a few little facts that I haven't been up for a while. I just figured I'd tell you.
Did you bring your facts from the last meeting you were at? Where you accused me of being in cahoots?
Oh, I'm working on that.
You said you had them. You working on them, or do you have them?
Dee Dee.
Just touching on the elected appointed, it don't matter if we're elected appointed. We have state guidelines we have to go by. That's it. They tell us what we can and cannot do, and that is what we can and cannot do. Everything else, we work for you folks. That's the bottom line. But anyway, I watched the meeting earlier, and I want to touch base on the Bricktown Hall and voting. DOJ was brought in for election. It was an election we had up there. It was the open town meeting, and lo and behold, things did not go well because a voter who could not make the stairs was told, hey, we have plenty of room upstairs, go right ahead. So the DOJ was called in, and that was the issue with the elections being up there. So we are not allowed to have elections up there until the DOJ signs off. Now, if the DOJ signs off that we can have elections up there, guess what? That goes to the state of Maine, because the state of Maine is going to tell us, hey, we're going to come down and check it out. And if the state of Maine says we can have an election there, we can have an election there. But until then, let's not and say we did. That's it.
Dee Dee, I just have a quick question. So in the email from the DOJ's office...
I haven't seen it, so...
Okay. I can send it to you.
Okay.
But she said, I cannot provide a general opinion on building use. So I'll look through this more. I'll send it to you as well and see what we think. But if at one point they said, no, you can't use it, and now they're saying she can't give us an opinion, I think she probably someone needs to give us an opinion from the DOJ if that's what you're saying is needed.
Whenever you are ready or think you guys are ready to have elections there, I need to call the state of Maine. Perfect. They're going to send somebody down. They will also send somebody down that is due to HAVA. They come down, they check it out, so we are in compliance. Right now, we are borderline on this place. So the parking lot outside is a huge part of that really needs to be redone. I know everybody keeps on voting it down, but the state of Maine says we can continue to vote here because we have a plan in place. So let's keep that plan in place and keep on checking.
Thank you. Gail? Steve, I saw Gail first. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
A while back, we had an article saying that when Hollandville ended, the residual monies from that project would go to Deepvale. Did that article sunset, and does it need to go on this ballot coming up in June or whenever you want to do it? How about June?
June would
Did it sunset? Because it was a while back, and we're still, we don't know the number yet.
I am unsure if it has sunsetted or not. I don't.
Just as a side, did you get the information from Senator Collins' office?
Yes, I did.
Were we counting on congressional funds to get that project done?
We are counting on congressional funds to do the entire project. We are waiting to hear from CDBG within the next 10 days, I think, to see if we can do half of the project.
Okay. So we've committed funds from the ARPA money.
That's correct.
That have been reported to be used for that project.
That's correct.
That project, because we've done planning on it, is considered underway, but yet to be completed.
Right, but okay, keep going.
Through the ARPA reporting.
Yeah.
We had to give them a date as to when we thought that project would be done.
Yeah?
I had to do the reporting, so I pushed it out as far into 2026 as they would allow.
Well, we've always said it would be 2026.
Yeah, so we pushed it out as far as we
Thank
could
you
to
very much,
2026.
because I thought it was 12/31.
No, of 25?
Yeah.
No, it goes into 2026.
Thank you.
It didn't go to December, but I want to say it was October maybe.
That would be good.
In that range. So I hopefully thought that we could get that
Yep.
done.
Thank you.
If we don't have luck with CBDG,
We're dead.
and we don't have luck with the congressional money,
That's gone. Senator Collins
That's
has
gone.
called. Yes.
but they're going to do a new 2026 one.
Yes.
It's possible, but
Well, we have to reapply.
you have to reapply.
Right, and we wouldn't know until March of 2026, and we wouldn't go out for bid until either the fall of 2026 or the next year.
So we need a plan.
A plan?
We need to have a contingency.
Yeah.
I know when they did Hollandville, one of the things they did at the end was change all the meters,
Yes.
right? And that was $40,000 or $50,000.
34, I think.
34,000. Okay. We may have to find a way to spend that $125,000 that we committed to the water project
Yeah.
before the end, even if that project doesn't go off in its entirety.
Okay.
So if it's changing all the meters down there because they are hopeful that they're going to do it later when the project happens, we got to just be cognizant of that possibility, that because we dedicated that money to that.
Okay.
And another email came out today that basically said, I know it was another administration that approved it all. The new administration is trying to figure out how they're going to get it back to those that don't use it correctly.
The ARPA funds.
The ARPA money.
Terrific.
So they're trying to find a way to get it back.
Right.
They did say that although they did direct deposit it to us, they won't reach in and grab it. They can't just take it.
Okay.
They can send us a letter saying we want it back, and then we can fight with the federal government, probably along with millions of other towns and cities. But they won't just take it.
Good.
So that did come through today, that
Okay.
they are looking for some, in the next round of reporting, if you're not in compliance, they want it back now.
We will find a way to spend it.
I'm sure.
Don't worry.
Never been a problem with the water department and water. There's plenty of work to do down there.
Okay, thank you for that information. That's good. So I just didn't know if that needed to go on this June ballot. I can give you the wording so that we're all legal when we move money from Hollandville to Deepville.
We already did.
We have not finished. There's money, there's Hollandville money in undesignated. It rolled back in, I think, or it's gonna, and I don't know the number. So that's my next question. I need 3 or 4 entries done in TRIO in 2024 so we know what number we have and we know what number we can plan with. So when is that going to happen?
Was Holland, I was under the impression Hollandville was completed.
It's completed, but the money is in, the residual money is in
But the article
undesignated.
was, when
needs to be-
Hollandville was completed, it was supposed to transfer over.
Right.
And it was never transferred over.
It's not in Hollandville. It's not in the Hollandville account. It's never been put in there. The account hasn't been credited. It's in undesignated. Y'all can spend it and we won't even know.
How did it come out?
How did it come out? There's probably $30,000 and then there's another $12,000.
If it was in the Hollandville account,
It was never in the, this is when the $1 million came in.
yes. This was the money that was left
We
over.
had a credit due us. You paid the bill and you kept the residual money
Correct.
in undesignated. It's never been put in Hollandville.
The original $1 million should have gone into Hollandville,
Yes, and it didn't.
and the payment that went to the bank for 900 and some odd thousand
Yes.
should have come out of Hollandville.
It didn't.
And when that happened,
It
the
would have been
balance in
there.
Hollandville should have been transferred to
Right.
Deepville,
You
as
paid,
the voters voted.
you paid it out of some account I don't even understand. Okay, you put it in there and you took it out and paid the bank.
So we have asked the auditor to come in and sit with the treasurer.
Yeah.
And department heads, or in your case, somebody that was dealing with that.
Yeah.
And sit down at the same time all together.
When is that going to happen?
They haven't given us a date yet.
Why can't these entries, I have documented these entries 2 or 3 times to this board, and I believe to the treasurer. I don't understand why they can't be made. They are black and white entries. Why can't we do this? There's so many things that are going by. It's almost April 1st. In the 2025, what is the matter? Do we need to hire more auditors? What do we need to do? Do we wait till June? I need an article, and these people need to know how to plan.
Don't even yell. I got something to say when you're all done.
Well, I just want Hollandville straightened out. Is that okay? That's all. Okay? Let me know. Thank you.
So I just want to make certain I'm hearing this correctly. There was money in Hollandville. Voters voted to take everything out of Hollandville and put it in Deepvale. So right now there's nothing back in Hollandville, correct?
There's money there.
There shouldn't be.
Correct. There shouldn't be, because Hollandville was completed. It should have been moved to Deepvale as well.
Correct.
When I voted, that's what I understood would happen.
But it has to be put in Hollandville first before it can be moved.
It was in Hollandville.
Nothing should be in Hollandville. It should all be in Deepvale.
That's where we'd like it to go, yeah.
Well, that's how the voters voted.
I know, but did it sunset was my first question.
Well, Hollandville, you chose to take all the money out of Hollandville and put it in Deepvale. So
But we don't do that.
Hollandville shouldn't exist. Well, we did it. The voters voted to take all the money out.
All right, so there's a lot of voters here. How are you going to move the money? The voters don't do that. The treasurer does it.
Voters voted
and the treasurer
to
needs
do
to move
it.
them, and the treasurer needs to move the money. We don't move the money. We don't move money.
Wasn't there a meeting that you discussed that you guys were doing something with the Hollandville account once again? And I don't know. It had popped into my mind. I'm like, I thought it was all taken out and put it in Deepvale. So
that is what needs to be done. But we don't get on the computer and move. We can't do journal entries and move money.
Correct.
We can't do that.
Shouldn't.
You can't do that. The voters can't do that.
And I can't do it after the end of the year.
Okay. Just want to make sure there's no money floating in there because it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be in Deepvale. So.
Right.
Right. Okay, again, the accounting stuff. I've been looking into a lot of how the budgetary was from January to December of 2024. And then what we have from January to December of 2025, because we're only into March. Looking at all these accounts and stuff, seeing how you can run the report different ways. You can say, I want all the accounts with no zeros, accounts that might have a negative in it or whatever. Well, anyway, looking at some of these accounts today, because I'm trying to do that tax-acquired property that is all messed up in accounting, I had to go, like I said, you don't understand how the type set up and all that works. I'm not going to bore everybody here with it. But all I'm saying is, it's horrible. I did call Trio again today. Of course, they had to give me a ticket. We'll get back to you as soon as we get somebody that can call you. I wanted them to go on the WebEx with me in my system and look at that accountant. With the tax acquired stuff, there's, because you got your R revenue accounts for your interest, demand, cost. There's nothing in it in tax acquired for legal costs or administration costs. Then you go into land purchases, and there's account in there set up for administration, legal costs. And then you go into another one, and it's not. It was regular real estate, current real estate. Now with that, the lien stuff's also in there. So anyways, what brought this all up is 2 pieces of property that got tax acquired in January. They foreclosed on them in January, this past January.
A couple months ago?
Yeah. So in Trio, under the real estate type setup, 24, 23, and 22 principals in there, interest, cost, total due, as of today's date. The sheet I get today, well, with the thing yesterday, had administration fees for X amount of dollars, and then it had some legal fee or whatever it was. Also, the interest and stuff was like $3, and all of a sudden on this sheet it's like $100. I'm like, what the heck? How did they get $100? Trio with computer is figuring up that interest. So I went in and saw the one that's handling this, and I asked him questions about it. He tried to say because of the demand letter we send out for tax acquired, you'll be tax acquired by January, if you ain't paid by January, whatever it was. Looking at that was on the thing that we send out saying you're going to be tax acquired. It had, again, the principal, the interest, and the demand fee. He said he'd added that into this other one, not realize it was already there. So the issue is, again, the tax acquired, if it was something that was tax acquired 20 years ago, it's not in the Trio system because nobody did nothing back then. So like I said, there's different ways to have it set up. There's another one that's called tax acquired in Trio, tax acquired not in Trio. Well, anyways, going through this since June, I got a little frustrated. I've been calling Trio. I talked to our auditor, Karen, but everybody else is talking to auditor Karen. And like I said, so it's getting to the point now, just like the payroll, I got thrown into that because they're trying to help out. But again, the payroll people the same way. They're getting so many calls from different people about all these issues we're having. My feeling right now is the treasurer, her deputy for now, Laura, myself, with the auditor, and with maybe Trio, once I can figure it out tomorrow with the WebEx, need to sit down, fix this mess, because there's accounts in those budgetary that are no longer in use. You don't need them in there. That, I know it was one of the issues they were having, talking to what the auditor had told me, and even when Trio, when we changed over to the WebEx from SQL, they even messaged us over to each one of the department heads. You got a lot, you need to check these accounts and that accounts. Budgetary was the worst one, Trio said. You had so many accounts in there that they haven't even been used. They don't know for how long. That stuff needs to get cleaned out. I don't think anyone's doing anything wrong. It's just that you set up umpteen capital project reserve accounts, CDBG grant account. You've got so many accounts going on that when all of a sudden those projects are done, those account numbers are still sitting in there. So that's what I had talked to Karen, like I said, and even with all the different things. I thought maybe it had something to do with tax acquired, the way I was receiving it. There is no rhyme or reason where that's even going. There's like she said, the account, it's not the accounters that's doing the accounting. It's over time, people just, the accounts went away, but they didn't take them out of the system. So every time we change from Trio over to SQL, then over to WebEx, those account numbers keep getting dragged in. And the more accounts you keep putting in and don't use again, you get even more on top of that. So before everybody starts thinking that nobody knows what the hell they're doing up here, I'd like to take the time and sit down with them, clean that system up, and have those accounts set up like they're supposed to be set up. And that's what I'm going to say. I'm not a treasurer.
While it's on my mind, I just want to, didn't we, Julie, I know you mentioned it during your department report and I wrote it down, but my brain's been going. Didn't we make a motion to have the new select board chair be added to the account already?
Yeah.
Okay, so that, in writing. Okay. Perfect, okay.
So you can pull those minutes. I guess pull the minutes, print them, and we can sign the minutes.
Yep. We'll have those for your next meeting.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
We need to have a meeting with that auditor to find out what it's going to cost to take care of this problem.
It's not that big of a problem, like I said.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Judy, it's going to take some money to do it. And we don't have it,
Excuse me, as far as I knew, and what I have been told by them, they have been in part with one of the selectmen, and it was already discussed how much it was gonna cost.
well, I don't know anything about it.
I don't have it either, because it seems like every time I talk to Karen, she gets another call, and then we have to go back to where we were doing, but I'm not complaining. If that's why I gotta work here, I don't, I like my job and I'm doing the best I can, but if you get the auditors in here like I've been trying for a year, it would be amazing.
Well, before we get them in here, I'd like to know what this is going to cost us.
Gotcha.
Is it going to cost us $50? Is it going to cost us $50,000?
Did you see the email that was sent to the auditor asking him that question?
Yeah, we didn't get an answer.
He did not answer the cost piece of it.
We need to have that figure.
And if you look, this year, we've got $9,200 budgeted for R.H.R. Smith. Last year, we spent $17,500.
But that's...
I believe, so that's what I'm saying.
That's just for their auditing.
Well, last year, we spent $17,500. I don't know why. We'd have to...
But
there's
this,
no way we had
this
that.
is over and above the audit.
Correct. I don't know how much of that $17,500.
And we don't have any money allocated to that.
Correct.
So we need to know what this is going to cost. Because I'd hate to think I've got to go back to the townspeople and say, oh, well, we just found out it's going to cost us $15,000 and it's got to, we've got to get a figure.
Can I just, what I'm trying to suggest is let Laura, Julie, myself, and when I get in with Trio tomorrow, just go run the reports, what's in budgetary. It will show you what accounts are dead and what ones aren't. That way that when the auditor does come in, you can at least give her these, because that's what she said. She didn't know where it's going herself, that's what she's having trouble with. Because there's no one reason. I mean, we all receipt in here. So if you're receipting something and it's not going into the right account that was supposed to be set up for, it's going into something else, they don't know where to begin to look either. That's why they're having so much trouble. So I think if you just, until the auditor can come in, again, run those reports.
You said they don't know where to go. Since I've been on this board, I found out that the problem, whatever situation happened,
it's the way
goes
the type
back
is set
to
up.
2021.
Again, it's how the setup was done in the system.
I realize that, but we've got to get that problem taken care of before we can go forward. If
Right,
not,
and the way
we're
to
not
do that
working with
is...
good figures.
So what type of debt accounts are in there? Give me an example of debt.
I can go give you that.
No, I
got the report already on it. I can go over to you. You can guys look at
Give
it.
me a couple off the top of your head.
John, I'll tell you one. There's one in there for the block party in 2021.
Okay.
We didn't have one.
And you got real estate in there. What it is again.
Not 2021.
Yes, that was.
There was items in there for a line for pie sales.
Does that account have money in it, Howard? Is there money in it or no?
They've been talking about all these dead accounts.
I know, but that account doesn't have any money in it.
I know, but it shouldn't be there.
It shouldn't be, I agree, but I just wanted to make sure it wasn't one, because we did it, we had one for repointing of the brick town hall.
With
that had
$240.
$200 that we carried forever, and we asked the voters to get rid of it and move it over. I know that's one of probably many, but if there are others in there that should have been depleted over the years, if it's the block party of 2021 and that account is still there, I don't believe we need it. So
I don't know why anybody's asking you to do that. That is a housekeeping task of the treasurer's office, period. It should be done. It just should be done. They know what's zero. They know what's not inactive. They know they can run these reports. They should just be doing this, period.
I'm going to disagree with that right now. Okay. Because I cannot remove any account that is not instructed because the account was set up by the town. So when we did the $245, we were doing the correct thing. So you're saying that this board has to? No, all I have to have is a directive to remove all zero accounts that haven't been moved for so many years. That's
With
all.
one article.
One article. There you go.
of the townspeople of the board?
CYA, your choice, which one you want to do. I would say both.
There's an article for you, June.
I have to say, add that to June.
So I make a motion,
The trouble is, you're gonna go till June to get a problem taken care of? Come on.
I'm happy to, I make a motion that we advise the treasurer to remove all debt accounts at her discretion.
I'll second that motion.
Second.
How far back have they haven't been used?
And that was 24. I ran them today.
These are accounts that haven't been used?
And I didn't want those zero ones. Look at the difference. If you look at these fees.
Dee Dee, do you have a question? Or do you have a comment or a statement?
I'm gonna say that I stated this on one other meeting that we had too. There are so many accounts that we voted on that are so alike. There's like one word difference. Laura, when she was here, she was getting so confused.
So administration treasurer supplies post.
This is what the auditor was talking about as well. It's one of them things that those have to be taken out. We don't use them anymore. Handicap accessibility in the Bricktown Hall, there was an account for that, then it was tweaked a little bit, one word off. We're not using those, get rid of those. Again, the auditor has to go through them. The auditor has to come in. When treasurers swap spots, so when Julie came on, it is required to have an audit. That was never done. We just need to get that done. We need to get things back on track. Start fresh. We have not been able to start fresh.
It was not done. She said she didn't do it.
She hasn't put in the numbers yet. That's why you're getting all these negatives.
She hasn't put the numbers in for 2025. She said that.
That's why I'm finding shit out.
Yeah, so Julie, question that Judy just had.
Brady. All right, call this meeting to order.
Judy had a question of, have you entered budgetary numbers?
For 25, no.
Yeah, okay.
That's why Stephanie talked about all these negatives. That's why it's negative on all those accounts, because...
But Stephanie was looking at 2024 reports, not 2025.
She had all the
24 they were in there.
What's that?
They were in the beginning of 24.
I know, but what I'm saying, Stephanie wasn't looking at 2025 numbers because Julia said she didn't put in any new numbers. She didn't start with anything until, you said you were going to put them in after the town meeting.
When after your town meeting and you get your budget, you're changing it so fast, everything, I'm not making excuses. I'll dedicate myself because Laura, next week we can do it. Laura's not in maybe one day this week, but we will get it done for you, but I'm going to tell you, and I asked this when I first came in, the green sheet and the white sheet for the audit, for your voting, is very hard to match up. If for next year, for 2026, you could redo your budget and put it exactly the same way that your reports are, it would be 100% and save about 2 hours of time to do it. And I know, yes, I'm getting up to be classified, and I'm not ashamed of it, a senior citizen, but it's hard. I have to take my glasses off to read the green. because it's so fine. And I can't be the only one that has trouble reading these. And you quit your smiling. But I will gladly get that in, even if I, get it over the weekend. I won't be able to do it this weekend, but we will get it done in there. It won't be for your next meeting, but it'll be the one after. I'll do my level best to keep my word on that for you folks, to get in the figures and make it balance. It'll be your receivables as well as your expense lines. That's what you're missing. Is there anything else, John?
No, I'm going to withdraw my motion because the report that Judy just gave that has 2024, this one doesn't have any. I don't want to remove accounts that have balances.
Okay, I can give you tomorrow the report to show you all of the accounts, and it will have the zero balances in there.
And to be honest, I'd rather just have you take the time to, if you have accounts that have zero balances, I'd rather continue with my motion and have you remove them at your discretion if you believe they should be gone.
Yes, sir. Because it'd be easier to, once they're gone, and then you find you need to add something, to go back and remove, to add it, then try to keep adding and adding, because I think the report is better than 20 pages long of the accounts that we have. I know I've got a binder of my valid accounts, and it's probably even longer than that. Anything else, kind sir?
I do not have anything, no.
Is there anything else, John? But I thank Dee Dee for what she said, and that would make it a lot easier, but it's not going to happen overnight. We're going to need probably another quarter of the year to get everything. If once the auditor's in here, they give us our journal entries to do, because I was looking at the reports this week, and the year-end budget wasn't done while I was in the hospital, closing out for the year end and moving them over. And I've just found that, and my one journal entry that, as it brought it over, isn't balanced. And I'm working with Trio so that they can find out why it isn't balanced, because when 24 it was balanced, and when it brought it over to 25 it's out of balance.
So when you get that done, we'll be able to know what's in each account up to date.
Once the audit...
In all of the departments?
Yes, sir. Once the auditor gives me the year end, because then we enter, whether it be Laura or me, we enter those, that will make your year end so that you will have a more accurate, you won't have a preliminary audit, you'll have the actual audit.
But what Howard's looking for, your year end 2024...
Yes, sir.
...has nothing to do with 2025.
No.
So this report right here that Judy printed has, I think, what Howard would normally be looking for, which is the accounts. So this has the accounts, what our normal budget amount would be, what we've spent to date, and what we've put in, and it tells you what your balance is. So if we started with 100,000 and we've spent 10, you know you got 90 left.
That's what
Okay, yes.
So to do that, the beginning balances have to be put in, because, I'm just going to give that Howard, if you were to look at that, every one of them are negative, because no beginning balance has been put in yet.
Right, okay. Okay, can do. Can do. Is there anything else, gentlemen?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more hearing of citizens? Well, then let's
make a motion.
All right, Steve.
Email me. I'll be around more than lunchtime.
I should have brought dinner.
Wreck your time. Anyway, first thing I want to announce is the municipal building will be open late tomorrow, because the three ladies are going to have to get a little bit of sleep here tonight. So, that being said, now it's interesting sitting here with all the confusion about the treasurer, accounts, balances, and I've been part of the budget committee for a long time, but yet I hear we have a recall of the treasurer. but yet no one in this room, we can't figure out what the hell's going on. All right? And,
No recall of the call, Jack.
okay, well, whatever, I'm just, well, I won't go. But anyway, I saw a copy of it, so how's that? But anyway, everybody at home, everybody here, you ought to watch the Budget Committee meeting there that was Friday that I attended.
It needs to be uploaded.
I was going to say that
Okay.
needs to be posted.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll be a week late anyway, but you know, let's not post it till after
Right.
the special town meeting so nobody understands anything. But it was a very good meeting. But one thing that come out of it that was kind of interesting to me is one board member talked to the auditor, and it was back and forth, okay? I think anything to do with the auditor should be in writing, so all the board members see what the question is asked, what the answer is, okay?
So when I say I spoke to the auditor, I've emailed him.
Yep.
Did the board see the entire email that I sent? Did I send it to everybody?
Okay, that's what I'm just saying.
Wasn't that, well, his response was yesterday.
Okay.
It was nothing, I sent an email to him, and I sent it to the entire board.
But as
Not
of,
alone.
as of Friday night, no one else knew about the response. Okay.
There wasn't a
There was
response.
none.
Okay,
Because-
so we didn't
because
get one, okay.
On Friday night, when we had that meeting,
Yeah.
that was when it was asked to find out how much this is gonna cost. I said, I've been in contact
Well,
with the
yeah, I don't
auditor.
care about the cost, yeah, you
Well,
had
no,
said
that was
about
part
some
of it.
different things.
So I sent the email to the auditor, CC'd the entire board.
Yeah.
And he responded to the entire board.
Okay.
So not just one person. So
Okay.
if I say I've spoke to the auditor, it's in an email that the entire board has seen and with the response.
Right, all right. The other thing is, there was talk about the money from the sale of the lots. Now, wherever it is or whatever, but was some of that used to offset the legal bills?
No.
Okay.
Because the problem, as Judy has explained twice, and Julie has explained, for that piece is an issue. I don't care who you are, what town you're in, okay? None of that money has been used to offset anything yet because, as Judy stated, and Julie said, Trio is not caught up to the new law and how that handles. And that comes from the auditor's office also, who says they have other towns dealing with the same issue. So the auditor knows it's an issue, so they want to deal with that. That was their priority until we sent them a handful of notices from the Department of Labor and the Maine Revenue Service that we either didn't pay, underpaid, or didn't state the correct numbers for unemployment and payroll taxes. They took that as their priority at that point because countless penalties and interest were adding up.
So do we know the figure that was used for the attorney fees? So let's say $10,000 out of the $700,000, $800,000 we sold were attorney fees. Okay, so that it would offset the expense we had last year, just so you know.
Correct.
All right. I mean, eventually it'll get there, but this year it sounded like we had an awful lot in attorney fees, but we had an awful lot going on too. But if $10,000 was spent to bring in $700,000 for the town, pretty good deal.
Correct. And we said the other night that although the legal account appeared to be overspent, when that correction is made in the books, and those revenues from those costs related to each lot sale that were used for the attorney come in as a revenue to that account, it will offset. So just like every other account, it's additional. We start the voters vote to spend X amount of dollars on legal fees, $50,000. We spend it. As we spend it, it's got to be subtracted. If we take some in from lot sales, it needs to be added back in because that's where it came from. That way we get a clear view of what we appropriated for tax money, what we spent total, and how much of that came back in. If we're getting revenues back in on our legal fee account, we're pretty sure it's from lot sales, right? And that's accounted for through the
See,
treasurer's
none of that has happened. People don't understand it. Tonight, if they're watching, they're going to understand it. But I think we ought to expedite getting Friday's meeting on the air so everyone can see it before we have any vote. All right, so.
Yeah, and we...
I didn't know it was off the air until before this meeting when I was going to refer to it.
No,
And I think the beauty of that meeting is it can be explained the night of the meeting to those people that are here voting also.
Right, but it'd be
So-
nice to have a precursor to it, to understand what was, because it was a very good meeting, very good explanation of what was going on in the town. And that's what the people need to know. Because, through all this stuff, we've thrown the past treasurer, this treasurer, trying to say it's all their problems. And it's really not. I mean, it's a mess. I think somebody said it started 2021 with the trio. So, that's 4 years ago, and it's caught up to us. There's no money. I've asked you a million times. Somebody didn't swindle $6 million. It's there, all right? And I think we got to work through the problem. And, Howard, I know it's going to cost money, but every week that goes by is another week we're into the year to get the auditor down here to sit with, they're requesting it, department head, so we ought to honor that request so we can at least figure this out. Everybody can adjourn.
I can tell you what happened, why the budget meeting. Stephanie was running the video, and she was also chairman, or she was running the budget board, and there was trouble with the video, audio, or whatever, on the online. It was on cable, and she couldn't fix it because she was doing both. In circumstances like that, I think we ought to have somebody come up from SCR TV to cover for the video recording, but whatever, that's that. And one more question. If you're chairman, how come only a couple or one board member does all the talking? Shouldn't it be spread out so you all get your fingers in the pot and learn how to do everything? Would that be something that would be proper?
I know that there is sometimes that like this year, for example, I'm taking on the tax anticipation note, starting that process because I haven't done it before. I know when responding to questions, sometimes other board members are more versed in that situation, and so I appreciate them answering the questions. But I know as myself as a board member, I'm trying to take on more.
Yeah. But when you got two new guys and, they got to jump in, and Wade's been here for a while, and, we don't have a town manager. We have 5 selectmen, and I think that it should be, all the duties should be equally spread out so one doesn't get tired.
I agree.
Just a suggestion. Thank you.
The duties are getting more and more, though.
That's good. Town's ready.
Is it?
Is anybody on the board, even the 2 new guys, have you felt like you couldn't speak?
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
No, I'm not ready yet. Have you felt like you couldn't speak?
No.
Okay. I mean, she's clearly talking about me. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me, but I don't stop people from speaking, but if I have information, I'm not going to sit here like a dummy and not put it out. I mean, I can not respond, but
and that's
if
what I
somebody
said.
asks a
I
question,
appreciate it.
I get it. If somebody asks a question and Brady doesn't have the answer, I guess I can keep my mouth shut and we can keep kicking the can down the road, right, until Brady's got 7 or 8 years worth of experience and can find the answer. But he's got a long way to. He's young, so I apologize if Cheryl thinks I speak too much, but I'm not going to sit here and be a mute because. If there's a question asked and I have the answer, I'm going to answer it. And I'll never stop anybody else from speaking.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I see none. All in favor? Everybody have a good night. Thank you.